I see the pain that comes with it because of, especially within the black community, how shit has come. But for not even to get too off point, like for example, Rosa Parks, right? Rosa Parks wasn't the first black woman to be told to get off the bus or sit in the back of the bus, whatever, right? But she was one of the first black women that had a clean record, that had a good, she could be the face of whatever particular argument, movement, incident it was. You can't just say, yo, this happened to this person and not acknowledge the details of it that led to that point. But when you have something that you could stand on it. Nowadays, we just look and say, yo, it was just another black person. Opposed to looking at the details. Like, there's a bunch of innocent people, and just in general, there's a bunch of innocent people, not just black people, that get fucked over every day, but we'll just like hammer on to whatever it was that happened to this particular person that looks like us, regardless of how it led to that point. We'll just go along with it and say, yo, y'all keep killing us, regardless of the fact that that dude had a gun and he was shooting at some people, or he was like, you know what I mean?
I think the number in 2020 was 260 some black people. I could be wrong on the very specifics, but it was around that ballpark. 260 some black people were killed by police in 2020. 17 of which were conventionally unarmed by legal standpoint. Yeah. 2 of which, of that 17, were actively attempting to disarm the police officer and were shot by another police officer. Yeah. So that, to me, puts at 15 black people killed, which is not an epidemic. It's a problem. 1 is too many. Yeah. But it's not an indication of systemic racism, especially when you turn around and look at the flip side of 1, just as many, if not more, white people were killed by cops. Right. I don't know the specifics on the rest of the numbers because nobody ever really fucking cares about that. Mm-hmm. But and it is gonna sound fucked up, but black people there's a certain demographic of black people that do commit more crimes than the rest of the population, and it's.
I mean, there's a. I mean, not to cut
I mean,
a
lot of I don't.
Continue. Yeah.
It's not black people that do it. It's certain people that happen to also be black.
Oh, yeah.
But the biggest argument that I've never had anyone give me a good comeback for, which I really want someone to, is like, I say that and they're like, well, you got this reason, that reason. I say, well, is there ever an excuse to rape? And they go, no, there's never a reason to rape. And I agree with that entirely. And yet that demographic, which is young black men in highly populated areas that don't have a father in the household, never had a father and a male figure in their life, are statistically more likely to rape. Mm-hmm. And it's primarily black women that they're raping. Almost all rapes are within race. Mm-hmm. But, like, 1, if you say I don't care, I do care more about the victims. Yeah. I want that mentality. I don't know what it is to change, but saying it's racism isn't going to change anything. Yeah. And 2, you have a higher concentration of the crimes, especially like the violent ones, that put them in interactions with police where they're more likely to get shot, and yet like they're still not measuring up in raw numbers to the white population, which has more people and therefore should have vastly more people being shot, but it's almost even. Like,
can I comment on that real quick?
Go for it.
All right, so I see where you're coming from, and honestly, I feel like it really does come. I think it's less about color and more about
upbringing.
Well, that also, but I would say more about like environment to a certain extent. Yeah. So when most people, I would say, if you look at crime statistics within upper middle class, high class black people and upper middle class, high class white people, you're probably going to see similar statistics to a certain point.
Well, that's why I didn't say, I clarified it already. Like, I'm not talking black people, like the black population in general. I'm talking specific, there's a specific demographic of people that happen to be black. Right. They're younger males, never had a father in a household, and they're in very densely packed environments.
But that's kind of what I'm getting into, right? I feel like it's less about the generality, and I wasn't trying to imply that.
No, I didn't think you were. I was just clarifying.
Right. So I feel like it's more so that if you come up within an impoverished community, right?
Sure.
if you come up without certain figures, role models, whether you're missing your mother, you're missing your father, so on and so forth, right? You're going to see a certain level of crime and a lack of leadership and so on and so forth. Now, within the black community, there's a lot of fatherless homes, and that we could speak on
75%.
right, but we could speak on why that is the case, right? But I feel like we get so caught up because if you go to a quote unquote hood in a black community and a quote unquote hood in a white community, you're probably going to see similar statistics because we're all people for the most part, and when under similar conditions, we tend to react similarly. But on a larger scale, when we talk about statistically, like, or let me not say proportionately, if we see a larger number of black people committing crimes, first we have to acknowledge the amount of black people within certain levels of income, poverty, middle class, lower class, whatever, right? And then we got to get further into it and talk about other aspects. Now, the other aspects is where people talk about this systemic racism, like such as, like, if one person says black people don't have this amount of mothers, fathers in the home, then another person might say, well, that is because of X, Y, and Z that was put into place trying to hurt black people. We could get into whether that's bullshit,
I mean,
whether it's accurate. That could be a whole other conversation.
Not to get too deep into it, but it was actually more done because of the women empowerment movements.
Oh, bro,
the suffrage movement.
I'm with you there. I'm with you there.
In the greatest movements of history for African Americans, that were supposed to be big victories, we actually see massive spikes that go from, like, I think it's the suffrage movement, I think was the term, but you see
Women's suffrage, yeah.
The fatherless households went from 25% to 75%.
That fucked us
like,
up. Yeah.
It skyrocketed under Obama, and it lowered under Trump, actually, but it's another conversation.
But I'm with you so far. Continue.
There's a cultural aspect that I see within primarily the black community when on social media, but it's not to say it doesn't exist in other communities, but these women they glorify the idea of having a baby daddy and getting child support from him.
Yep.
They glorify the idea that they can just hit a man and men can hit them.
They could do it themselves. They don't need a man. They're independent. They're strong. Where really the government is the baby daddy now.
Yeah. It's there's a lack of personal responsibility.
100%. Accountability.
Accountability and response. Yeah. There's just a whole lack of it.
I agree. 100%.
We also get a lot of... I went to one of those reopen the state rallies, and just because I like to go to those things. Anytime they have one, I always contact the people running it. I'm like, are you cool with people coming armed? And whenever they say yes, I show up. I'm in full fucking kit. I got my sunglasses on, my plate carrier, repping my little organization with my vest. And the things I put on it. And we had an altercation up at the front. And I'm not officially security, but I always go towards any time people are being violent towards others. And there were 2 altercations that day, or 3 that I got involved in. And the very first one was the lady up on the stage, which I fucking hate the lady that was up on the stage. I hate her with a passion. She is a liar, a backstabber, and just an all-around terrible person. But the girl, some girl walked up and decided she demanded time to speak and was yelling at her, like, oh, well, I can't speak, I can't get up there, and was getting in her face. And I went over there and just stood in between them. Yeah. And I looked at the lady who happened to be black, and I'm like, look, ma'am, she's not worth your time. She's worthless as a human being. Just walk away. Please, just walk away. Please just walk away. And she just started getting louder and louder, saying, get the fuck out of my face. Right. So I washed my hands of it. I said, all right, fine. Took a few steps back, turned around, and walked away. Yep. And I did my best. And I looked back, and I see the lady get pushed. The black lady pushes the white lady. And I'm like, well, here we go. And the cops immediately walk over there. That's assault. Yep. Up until that point, it was first a freedom of speech. I mean, you're being aggressive. You're in someone else's face, but you didn't touch her. It's not physical. Then the black lady, there's no reason for assault. There's reason for self-defense from assault, but there's no reason for assault. Right. The black lady made the personal decision to get physical. Right. The cops came over and arrested her. As they should. And then some lady who people might make fun of me for saying this, but some Antifa fucking chick or whatever, she was all out in black, trying to look like a thought, but also hide her identity, had a flag that was upside down marching around, which I mean, Freedom Amendment, for First Amendment, she can do it. I don't give a fuck. I think it's disrespectful, but I don't give a fuck. She came over and called me racist because I didn't go over there and stop the cops from arresting her.
Yeah,
and I'm
bullshit.
like, well, what? She pushed her. She's like, well, she's black. And I'm like, but she pushed her. Like, the fact she's black doesn't matter. They didn't arrest her because she's black. They arrested her because of her personal choice. And if you say otherwise, you're a racist. And she stopped for a second there, and she's like, well, I'm not a racist because I'm defending the black person. I'm like, no, you are saying that the color of the skin is what matters here, not the actions of the individual.
Right.
You're racist. And just the look of realization on this woman's face, let me tell you what, it was beautiful.
Confused as fuck, right?
It was confused, like, wait, am I the bad guy? Oh, no. Wow.
See, and that's that bullshit, because, like, for real, it is interesting, right? To some extent, we could, like, I want to, I'll dip back and forth between speaking on women in general, on my perspective, and then black women in particular. Women, in my opinion, especially now, especially after decades of the whole feminist movement, like sexual revolution, whatever you want to apply it to, right? There's a certain amount of entitlement and lack of accountability. And within the black community in particular, right, there's a lot of women who grow up, and like how we spoke about the fatherless households, right? A lot of women who don't have that masculine role model growing up don't learn how to fully embrace their femininity. So they grow up embracing higher levels of masculinity with the intent of trying to fulfill that role.
It's necessary to have both parents.
It 100%
really
is. It is. And there's actually stories, or not, let me not even say stories. There's statistics on the success of single mom households versus the success of single father households. But within the black community in particular, we've embraced a certain amount of masculine energy from our women. So when it comes down to it, the same way you try to go up to that woman and say, like, yo, she's not worth it, whatever. Now, if it was, and this is where the race aspect comes into it. Because part of me in my mind is conflicted. I would like to say on one level, if you were a black man, maybe she would treat you differently. Should you? No. I mean, should she? Excuse me. No, she shouldn't treat you differently.
If I was a black man and I got in between them and said, hey, calm down, this lady's not worth your time, she might have listened.
But here's the issue, right?
Okay.
To some extent, I would think about it and I would be like, maybe if you were black, she would. But as a black man, right, I honestly, and you could chime on this, Sean, I feel as though it wouldn't have made a difference simply because of the state of black women currently. Whereas if you're trying to tell them something or tell them to do something, they're going to challenge you with masculinity, opposed to, maybe people might not like this word, but submit to your masculinity. They will challenge your masculinity opposed to submit to it. Now, that's not to say they just should submit to you because you're a man, but understand that you were trying to help her in that particular moment.
I was in charge of the situation. I was attempting to be anyway.
But at the end of the day, you were trying to help her. You were like, look, it's not worth it. You don't need to get in trouble. You were trying to protect her in that moment.
I was actively trying.
But her instinct was to challenge your masculinity opposed to accept your protection. One side would be like, oh, if you were black, you would do that. But as a black man, I feel like, yeah, probably not. Like, black women tend to be a lot more masculine, and they would just curse you out in the same way they would curse a black man out. And you can't tell them shit, opposed to a lot of other cultures where they understand the male-female dynamic, and they would look at you and be like, okay, all right, I'll relax. A black woman is just going to challenge you. And it's not, you got to let them do their shit. And that's a lot of the problems within the black community today. But that masculine energy is just, that's just a problem. Like, it's been continuing to mess us up. And like how you brought up the women's suffrage earlier, a lot of the times, well, let me not say a lot of the times, at a certain point in time, women's suffrage did not apply to black women. But, and same with feminism to a certain extent, but then black women hopped onto it. That mixed with the amount of masculine energy coming from the lack of fathers in the household leads us to where we're at right now. And that's just particularly with the black community. I can't speak for others.
How do you feel about it, buddy?
I feel like it wouldn't have made no difference if he was black or not. Like, it wouldn't have made no damn difference.
Honestly, it didn't make a difference what color that lady's skin was to me either.
And certain people would sit there and be shallow minded and be like, "Hey, what's because if you're black, you're white." It don't matter, bro. Like, she's a woman. I'm a man trying to calm down the situation. I'm not touching on y'all. I'm not none of that. I just don't want y'all throwing blows. That's basically what you're just trying to prevent. Doesn't matter about anything besides that. But anybody on the outside looking in, like you said, the lady that was dressing all black said that. That was some ignorant shit to say. Like, yo, like, I don't care. I don't give a damn. She was purple. Nigga. Like, I'm just trying to stop bullshit.
Yeah.
So, and plus, I'm gonna come at a cop for arresting. Come on, how do I look? Like, you feel me? Like,
so small story. About 2 hours after that, the same lady I mentioned earlier, all in black, who happened to be like skinny white chick. At least she had tits, so I'm assuming. But she decided. I mean, like some people were starting to leave. Like, the crowd definitely had thinned out a little bit. The speeches were done with, and it was mostly just people kind of hanging out at that point. And I had a lawn chair set up with a little sign that said his name was George, because this was right in the beginning of George Floyd and it's happening. And I mean, I had a sign for Duncan Lemp when that happened. I had a sign for a few other people, Breonna Taylor, because they're like, I didn't know the full story behind the George Floyd thing, which, I mean, we can get into that if you want, but
Yeah.
I definitely don't agree with that court ruling. And I'm not pro cop really in any way, shape, or form. I have a deep understanding of how it works and how it should be. But so I'm sitting in my chair, which has that little sign and a flag planted next to it because I'm a fucking extra as shit, and I'm just in like a blue lawn chair,
Right.
just watching around. And then the lady gets the bright idea to put her flag on the ground in the middle of the field, kneel on it, and then put her fist up like a fucking
that's
cringe.
doing a lot.
Cringe.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, all right. I mean, as a veteran who's seen that flag on caskets before, and I think that's incredibly disrespectful. But at the same time, one, you didn't do it to my flag, which if you come to my house and take down my flag and kneel on it, I'm going to fucking shoot you in the face. Damn, be the consequences. You did that to my flag, but she did it to her own flag. It's First Amendment right. You gotta do what you want. You want to burn on it, piss on it,
Isn't
spit
there
on it.
laws on that though? You can't dishonor the flag or some shit like that.
No, there's laws for how the government has to handle flags, and they keep fucking it up. But no, there are guidelines for how you should treat it. Like if a flag is tattered and worn, there's places you're supposed to properly burn it, which I believe involves like folding it properly and then putting it in. I don't know. I didn't look enough into it. I don't plan on burning any flags. I take good care of my shit.
Right.
But I mean, it's her First Amendment right. She wants to fly her flag upside down. That shows that she's in distress. Personally, I honestly agree with it. Not for the same reasons, but like the same reasons, but she's misinformed on a lot of stuff, in my opinion. But she wants to sit there and kneel on the flag. I mean, you're disrespectful as fuck, and you in this country that did so much for you to be able to sit there on that flag and comfortably do that without the fear of someone coming up and shooting you in the back of the head, as they would in, like, say, Russia. But I mean, and you're doing this in the middle of a crowd of people that staunchly disagree with you. And then we had some politician lady who was running for, I don't fucking remember what it was. And I'm not going to bring up names. The politician lady comes over and starts flipping her off and turning it into a photo shoot. And some other people come over and start harassing her. And I got up real fucking quick and walked over there. And I stood in front of her with my back to her and told them they are going to fucking leave her alone. And those people, like, they were like, well, you're on our side. I'm like, no, you're against me right now.
Yeah.
Because you are violating the Constitution. You're going to fuck off. And, I mean, I'm a big fucking dude. And I wear cargo pants, boots, and fucking my plate carrier over a Hawaiian t-shirt every time I go out there. Some of the people listening might know the deeper meaning of that. Some people might have a wrong meaning behind that, but those people got an idea of what it was, which is I support the Constitution indiscriminately.
Right.
And I told those people to fuck off and leave her alone. You can say something respectful, or you can say something from over there, but you're not going to be getting in her face and this close anymore. I'm done with it.
Right.
Leave. And they left. And I stood there with her for a little bit. She said, thank you. And I said, yeah, it's what I do. And I
Right.
walked away. And I went back and sat down after standing there for a minute, just making sure everyone else in that fucking area knew you're not going to fucking mess with her anymore.
Right.
And she came over and she was like, hey, who are you? And I handed her a water bottle. I said, you look hot. Drink some of this.
Yeah.
Because she was fucking sweating. It was a very hot day.
Yeah.
But handed her a water bottle and said, drink this. And we had a what I would say is a productive conversation. And the conversation boiled down to, you're racist and you are ashamed of the fact you're racist, so you try and call everyone else racist. And I think that's like the root of a lot of the movements going on right now. It really is. It's the idea that I feel badly for these people and I want to try and do better by them. And in the process, you're taking away all accountability and such that makes them humans and adults. And I'd like to think, I haven't seen the lady. She hasn't contacted me since. I gave her my email, but I never got anything. But I'd like to think that she at least has a different way of looking at things. I'm pretty sure I shell shocked the shit out of her that day. Because
I can imagine. Shit.
she was not on the taller side, and she was very skinny and frail, definitely eats soy. But, I mean, I don't know. But
Yeah. See, like when we get into those conversations,
yeah.
it gets super deep because a lot of the times people tend not to have enough perspective to really get deep into these type of conversations. They don't expose themselves to enough different type of people. It's like I forget where I heard this exactly, but somebody was talking about the idea of racism, and they were bringing up the fact that, like, all right, a lot of communities tend to stick together to a certain extent. So if you're from, let's say, a primarily black community in Harlem, right?
Yeah.
You're going to be surrounded by primarily black people. The amount of times that you'll see white people will be very small in your community, I'll say. Like in a city like New York, you're going to be around a lot of different people. But just within your particular community, you're not going to see a lot of that. And then same thing, if you're in middle America and you live in a white community in primarily white areas, most of what you perceive other races to be is going to be on media. Same within that area in Harlem. Most of what you see is going to be the media. I grew up in a neighborhood that's primarily Hispanic. And growing up, like from kindergarten to the moment I left, like after 7th grade, every one of my classes, let's say I got a class at 30, right? It's going to be 27 Hispanic people, maybe 3 black people. Randomly, I had one white friend growing up. Like up until I came to Delaware, had one white friend. He was Bosnian. He wasn't even like American white. He was a Bosnian Muslim guy. Whiter than you, pale. Blonde hair or blonde reddish hair. But that was it. That was the only white friend I had. When I was in 7th grade, right before I left, we had a French exchange student. That was it. So most of my perception of white people came from Disney Channel and movies and so on and so forth. So for a person to be in middle America, and when I say middle America, I'm really trying to say like primarily white communities. Most of your interpretation of other people are going to be the media, what you see in the news and what you see in the movies and TV shows, right? So when we don't have those type of experiences where we can see, oh shit, like you're the same as me. You're the same as me. Like when I first came to Delaware, one of my first friends was part Russian. And then I had another couple friends, I didn't know what they were, but like it was primarily white people. I went from having my friends be Dominican and black to I come out here. I met more black people in Delaware going to school. And I had more white friends, but then it's like, oh, this friend that happens to be white, he's part Russian. he is into anime. This other white friend with red hair and glasses, he hunts and he does whatever. He's into anime. My other white friend that's Jewish, like we found ways that we bond, and we realize like, oh shit, like it's not that simple. But then the media doesn't give you that interpersonal.
They don't try.
Like, they don't try.
They deliberately
they
do
don't.
that.
They don't try at all to like help you get that perspective and understand like, oh shit, you're white, but you live in a trailer park and your brother sold drugs and went to jail and X, Y, and Z. Damn, you're more hood than my black friend that lives in a big house and his parents are doctors. Like, you get stuck in certain ways. Like, it's not about race. It's not about all that. A lot of the time, it's just your community, your upbringing, your level as far as income and like social economic state. And that a lot of the times, like if you go to a trailer park, you're going to see a lot of white drug dealers. If you go to a Project Hood, you're going to see a lot of black drug dealers. At the end of the day, hood is hood. Rich is rich. Right? It be like that. But then let's say you got the one person that lives in the middle of nowhere that they don't be around black people as often, or maybe most of the black people they see are more affluent, they have more money, and they see a bunch of black people getting shot on camera. You don't know black people in the hood. You don't know white people in the hood, whether you're Asian, white, or black. You don't know Asian white people in the hood, like or Asian white people, Asian hood people. So you don't
Asians are white people now apparently. So it's been some things that came out like Harvard and such. Asians are white.
It's
apparently.
funny, but you don't get those communities. So when you see all this, you might want to fight for certain things that you think are wrong. You'd be like, yo, y'all keep hurting black people. Whole time, you would never date a black person. It's like they might have certain racist tendencies, but then certain.
Probably not want to date a black person doesn't necessarily make you racist. It's preference.
No. I'm with you there because I like when I was younger, I thought it might be considered racist, but as I've gotten older, I see no like harm or foul in an Irish person wanting to have an Irish like spouse.
If that's what you find attractive, yeah.
But not even just that, right? Like when we talk about like people, if a person who I'm gonna hit the mic. But if let's say you got a black person, Native American person, Japanese person, Irish person, German person, Persian person, whatever,
Okay.
right? And each one of these people said they wanted to marry somebody of their own race. You have that one person or maybe a group of people that be like, you're racist for that. Where it's like, no, if they truly want to just preserve their culture, I mean, that doesn't make them racist, that they just want to have a child that is within their culture purely to a certain point.
Honestly, I always just combat that with like, so do you hate me if I like redheads and not blondes? And then like if I don't feel attracted to blondes and I want like a brunette, right? Like yeah. I want a brunette that's physically fit because I don't find fat people attractive, or maybe I'm like I only like find fat people attractive. I don't want some skinny girl. Like you're gonna call me racist or whatever for not liking the other one,
right?
Like it's personal preference. It's also like my sexual orientation. You don't get to dictate that. I do.
Right.
Like that was the whole point of the Pride movement, although that's becoming the anger behind that and the vitriol coming out of that nowadays is a whole nother conversation. But no, I get it. It's messed up. But hey, I got a quote for you that I'd like to hear your perspectives on. Mm-hmm. I heard this the other day. It was some black guy on TikTok was saying this, and he had a lot of good videos like combating like discussing what we're discussing now, and just basically being like the people like saying that cops are racist are the real racist kind of deals, and like going into like the statistics of it and why like the arguments people are making or the policies that they're pushing forward not only don't make sense but are completely the opposite of what we need. He said there are truly two groups of people in the world: those that choose to think critically and are intelligent, and those that choose not to think critically and are stupid. The stupid group further divides itself by race, sex, sexual orientation, skin color, religion, and all that. But the truly intelligent people that like they are critical thinkers. Like the fact that your skin is black, it doesn't mean anything to me. I mean, if you have cultural things that you wish to apply it to, fine. But outside of description, you get to be whoever the hell you want to be. You make your own choices.
Right.
The whole black people don't swim. It's like, no, black people tend not to try and learn how to swim, or like black people can swim, or like white people can't jump. No, most people, white people just don't practice jumping for basketball or whatever. Like it's you're a consequence of your actions, and stupid people relegate their actions to what their skin color is. I mean, how do y'all feel about that?
You want to start, Sean?
I mean, of course, that's the ignorant way out. Like niggas just be like, oh, I like chicken because you black. You might like you gonna like chicken or watermelon or some shit. When I honestly do not like watermelon. So it's like, oh, you're white. Oh, you must like pasta all the time. Motherfucking no, because that's a bunch of carbs and shit, and I don't need. But it's like, if you those stereotypical things, and on top of that, it's at that. Because I'm a funny guy. That's all jokes to me. Like,
It's a joke.
That's everything that you just think. That shit I joke upon, and I crack the fuck up. Other people be like, "Well, that's racist."
It's a
or that's
watermelon.
This, that's that. Yeah, like it's not racist. Like I grew up I'm from Philly. Like it's a bunch of white people out of Philly. Oh well, Irish, Italian, what? But at the end of the day, if you're just going off of straight up looking, it's a bunch of white people. But we don't see that. We literally are the same. We grew up on the same block, row houses, got the same conditions. Even if it was a little different, we still the same. We walk on the same earth, breathe the same air.
Right.
So, and then if maybe you
make different choices.
Maybe you be more sensitive to certain subjects. Like, but at the end of the day, if you're my friend, you understand. Like, I'm just messing with you. It's jokes.
Yeah.
But that's why you said the intelligent side sees that and understands we all people. We don't.
Right.
I always find that the real joke are the people that take it seriously.
Yeah, like if you ever joke with somebody, they just be
Yeah.
and you think that's genuinely fucking funny. When you see that bothered them, for one, of course, just being nice, you gotta apologize. Like my fault. I do that too. But at the same time, like, bro, I am just messing with you. It's all just fun in nature. But some people grew up a certain way or told that's not that. So you gotta respect that if you really respect that person. Yeah. But it's like, I'm really just genuinely trying to poke fun at you just to get a laugh out of you. That's all. Because I find humor in any and everything. Like this nasty motherfucker with these nasty ass movies he be trying to have me watch. Hey. It ain't no it's Nash. That's a whole nother lane.
I like gore.
No.
When he says gore, you mean like you'll see somebody pull the eyeball out, chop a dick off, one John deep fry their hand, start eating it and shit. Like it's like it's so many. Like,
are we talking about anime or that website out there?
Oh my! I'm talking about like movies from the '70s that got banned in America type shit.
Nasty,
like Cannibal Holocaust, Green Inferno.
Okay.
Like shit like that.
Hey, if that's what you like, that's what you like.
Like, and then they had a John when the group of niggas raped a John, like burn her, piss on her.
That was fucked. That was based on a true story.
Yeah, but it's like
that was. Hold up, that movie was called Concrete. That shit is fucked. I mean, not even a sidetrack. This shit actually happened in Japan. These group of
people in Japan.
These Yakuza dudes. These Yakuza dudes kidnapped a chick, tortured her, and then at the end, when they killed her, they put her in a barrel of concrete and left her in a field, and then they found her. So the movie's called Concrete.
Oh boy.
Based on a true story. That shit's fucked up.
No, the Yakuza can do some fucked up shit sometimes.
It wasn't even like actual Yakuza. It was kids that were like imagine like understudy Yakuzas, like you're gonna become official one day, but you just hang around the Yakuza and you like do gang shit. They were like teenagers in high school and like did this to this girl. It was fucked up. But
looks like we need more prayer in schools.
Facts. But no, what you were saying about like the people being dumb versus the smart and how they view certain shit, I agree, because I feel like is a rich person, period, looking at another rich person and thinking you're black, so I'm not gonna make some money with you. Probably not. If you know you can make money with them, like you look at them and you know that you both had to do certain shit to get to that point in life. There's a certain amount of respect and understanding that regardless of your race, simply for you having certain qualities, you can only relate to one another because you're different from most. Whereas the simple, dumber way would be like, yeah, you're this color, or you're whatever. Like, we grow ourselves to be who we are, and we share certain similarities with different people, regardless of race, creed, color, whatever. And we get better by interacting with different people and learning more about ourselves, learning more about the people around us. And it's so simple to just say, you're this person, so I'm not going to do X, Y, and Z. A lot of the times it's conditioning. Like, I can't get mad at a person. Like, let's say you got a 90-year-old black guy who grew up in the deep South. Every white person that he saw in his formative years was racist. He saw crosses burned in his yard, and he like had the police kill somebody. Like, some
But
some
honestly,
sick shit.
he also probably also grew up watching people become kinder.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
for sure.
But I
But
might have been off track on
No.
what, I'm not misunderstanding where you're going with this.
no,
Sorry.
you're good. But I meant like particularly in the formative years. So you might see
Okay.
certain levels of like growth within the kindness and interactions. But when you see that person have certain hardwired shit that most people will be like, yo, you're racist, how you feel that way? Well, there's certain amount of conditioning that led to that, to where it's about them. So it's like PTSD in that aspect, opposed to being logical, smart, or dumb. That's trauma.
Well, that to me is I call it understandable racism. I don't think it's right. It's definitely not right. It's wrong to generalize
Yep.
an individual based off a group. But like you're saying, like I know several people that are incredibly racist and they know it's wrong, but it's all they have. One
conditioning.
guy was grown up that way. And like I met him through his daughter, and like his daughter's pretty fine. But her dad, like I met him, and like he's sitting there saying some of the most racist shit at this video game possible. Like he gets home after work and he just starts complaining about this fucking dude, and saying, and like he's complaining because of the person's actions, but he's adding in a bunch of racist terms.
Yeah.
And I like pulled him aside one day and just had a conversation with him, because I mean he's a bit older than me, but I mean I was old enough, right?
Yeah.
To confront him as an individual, not as the parent of this girl I'm talking to.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yo, like, you're racist? And he's like, yeah, I hate it. It's just how I was raised. I'm like, your daughter, I would never have seen this because of how your daughter acts. And he's like, well, I mean, I'm not going to raise her that way. Like, this is just
that's
pure
interesting.
hate, and I try my
Yeah.
best to go against it, but I mean, it comes out, especially when I'm angry at something. But I'm not raising my kids like that, and like,
Wow.
that's literally
I've
was
never
his
heard
his
of
thing.
A situation like that. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
that's how things change. We don't make new policies. We don't make like educational seminars. We raise children to be better. The other form of understandable racism I've seen, this guy grew up not racist at all, didn't really have a whole lot of experience with black people, but there were some in his community and they were fine people. But then he opened up a convenience store like 4 or 5 miles south from where he was, and things were fine for the first like 5 years, and then the community started changing and becoming more black, and then he started getting robbed like every night, and it was always a black person. They almost always had a gun. He got shot at quite a few times, and he just started to like you said,
Form certain
PTSD,
opinions, yeah.
start associating with it, and he doesn't like it. He knows it's wrong, but he can't get rid of it. And to an extent, he's justified it to himself as well, to where he's like, I've just accepted it. I'm not going to try and fight it anymore, which I think is kind of sad. But at the same time, I mean, what
To
are
a
you
certain
going to
extent,
do?
understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that, and that's literally what I was talking about. Like, in the same way, like you have that store in that neighborhood, and then it starts to change, and then now you're getting robbed all the time, and it's by black people. Can you really blame that guy for thinking that all black people are thieves versus that guy who grew up in the deep South and dealt with a bunch of bullshit, the burning crosses? Can you really blame him for saying all white people are one way? That's their experience, but that's definitely not the reality. It's just circumstantial.
You're right.
And it leads us to feel certain ways. That trauma really gets us fucked up.
It's a string of bad luck that your body naturally starts to associate
Yeah.
it with negatives. Like, that's why some frogs are colorful, because it's not natural, and the body's instinct is avoid that. I mean, us humans think the color's pretty, but most animals will not go anywhere near anything that's a rainbow, because they associate that with poison and death.
Yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that all frogs are poisonous, if that makes sense. Just
Yeah.
because a few of them are. And not even all rainbow-colored frogs are poisonous, but if your only experience is that they are, that's how you're going to assume it. I also think, side note, tomatoes were considered incredibly poisonous for a very long time because the first person to eat one was allergic to it and died.
Wow.
And then, like, there was, like, a large group of people that just never touched tomatoes. And then other people came in and were like, hey, here's some fruit. And you trying to fucking poison us? They're like, what? No, this is food. But yeah. No, well, I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
As far back as you can remember, whether it was something big, something innocent, but like when was the moment you started noticing race? That's what I want to know. Because kids are innocent.
Honestly,
they don't
I would
inherently.
say elementary school, but that's primarily because of, like I said, like I grew up in a primarily Hispanic neighborhood. So honestly, maybe kindergarten, first grade, I'm like, yo, I'm like, it's only 3 black kids in this class. Everybody else, my teacher included, speaks Spanish. I got my one white homie, and I look at him like from a skin color component, from like, all right, so I was, there was, actually no, it was 3 black kids besides myself in my kindergarten class.
Yeah.
They were all about the same skin color, like browner than me, so I was probably the lightest black kid in the class. Then I had my white homie, Omen. Now, outside of that, the rest were all Dominican. Like, from the moment I'm hearing their last names, my kindergarten teacher was Miss Gonzalez. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
for real. But then,
Monique.
and then you grow up, but then I peeped it more and more. It's like I go to school, it's primarily Hispanic. I come back to my block and I see a bunch of black people. I'm watching TV and I see a bunch of white people. And you notice you're different, like, instantly. But then year to year, it's like, okay, my kindergarten class was a Dominican teacher. My first grade class was 2 white teachers. Second grade was another Dominican. Third grade was a Jewish teacher. Fourth grade was a German teacher.
So about like elementary
Fifth grade
school
was
though, and
a
it was just
Asian teacher.
your environment. Like you just noticed different people were different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, wait, like, and then you just peep, and then not even just movies. You know, it's like you grow up watching hood movies, right? And you see black people talk a certain way, do certain things, living in certain environments, guns, drug dealing, hood-esque stuff. But then you flip it to Disney Channel, and then you see white people with decent houses and like positive, nice, friendly. Then you go out to the streets and you see a lot of your own people arguing, being violent, masculine.
Yeah.
You notice it a lot earlier than a person
I'd say
who's
aggressive, not masculine. Sorry.
Sure. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
it's-
but aggression tends to be a masculine trait.
Yeah, but that's also why if we're gonna take a few steps back, I feel like there's a big misconstrued on what toxic masculinity is people generalize aggression as a masculine trait and therefore it is solely masculine and all aggression is now toxic masculinity. Whereas
yeah,
like
I wouldn't say
women, there's feminine aggression as well. Like it usually partakes in different forms, but I mean it's
Tends to
there
be
as well.
passive most of the time with women.
Passive or manipulative, but
I
generally,
would say those
generally,
are the same. Yeah. But yeah, continue.
but no, that's all it was. I'm a bit of a lawyer for words, and I didn't like putting masculine in there.
On the same word picking shit.
Yeah,
I'm with
I
you.
just like
there.
to be clear. So,
But that was really it. It's like at that younger age, you peep it a lot more. But that was it. What was your take, Sean? Like, when did you kind of notice race?
Same time.
Same time.
Because I mean, he's both from the city, so being around my city was like I said, Italians, Spanish, black people. More black people than anything though. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't scarce to have a white person in my classroom. But like the same, like let's flip it.
Yeah.
There's like 3 to 4 white people in my class. Then everything else was Spanish, African, black people.
Gotcha.
So it was a melting pot. It was always been a melting pot since day one.
Okay.
So I see race. I was like, it's literally been the same thing since day one, since kindergarten. If everybody, that's why I low key like. I really never fully understood. Like I understand racism, but I don't understand how we can
hate someone based off of it.
when the whole world is different, bro. Like not
Okay.
different, but we all there's communities when there's just predominantly white, predominantly black, predominantly this, predominantly that.
Well-
But when you go outside to go to the store and out public, you're seeing everything. There's a bag of M&Ms out here, so it's like that's the best
Facts.
analogy.
Facts.
Nobody gets a bag of M&Ms and just
All the
yellow
same color on
M&Ms.
the inside too.
Unless
For
it's
real.
like you feel what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
so why when it comes to the world you can't put that simple analogy into reality?
Well,
Like,
something I've seen is my observation of the black community. There are people. If you two were different people, there are people that would dislike each other just because of the difference in both of your skin colors.
Bro, no, let me understand.
Like,
Like,
seen
my
that.
grandmother didn't like my little brother because he was light skinned.
Yeah, see.
She
Like,
changed
he
her
was-
opinion, of course, but I'm saying like off rip when he was a baby, she wouldn't hold him. None of that because he was light skinned.
Was he half white or just
No, my
light?
dad is light skinned. My dad is like
Okay.
light bright, so he looks like my dad.
So you came out darker
I
than
came
he
out
did,
brown- I
and
came
she
out
liked you
brown and
more.
He came out light skinned.
Oh my goodness, I couldn't. Goodness, did you?
Like right now, he's probably Javon's color. The DJ, like y'all the same
Okay.
color. So probably Javon the same thing. He was probably born light bright. They just know sun kiss you, boom, melody kick in, your ass is getting dark. So it's like
Fair enough.
But they the same color. She ain't like it for the longest, and I'm like that's your grandson. So it's like
That
and within the
colorism.
black community, yeah, black people. I feel as though black people are way more racist to their own kind than anybody else.
That's a whole nother conversation
'cause
because there's a lot that could go into that.
Yeah,
too.
but and then it's also I feel as though other races do it to themselves as well.
So it was just a passive realization for you guys.
Yeah, so it's like it just gradually as you get older, we like of course more older you get, the more. Well, my mom say like this: the older you get, the more open your eyes get. So the more things that you see and understand, the older you get. So as a kid, I didn't see race. Like I know there's other races, but
Yeah.
me being around it so comfortably, we all the same.
They don't
Fuck it.
really stick out like
Oh,
that.
but I see like, I like a white girl, I like a black girl. Like we knew that, and I
Yeah.
knew like just being in my crib. All right, I know if I bring a white girl home, I'm gonna hear some bullshit because of hearing my elders talk.
But your parents
bullshit.
talked about it.
But that's where I get my sense of humor from because they didn't really care. They just talk shit. Like they just
Okay.
make jokes and they're like, "You bring up your white girl," but they don't really fucking care. Like they're like, "Bring up your." I know they don't care because my little brother did it, so it's like they don't care. But it comes down to outside of that when I go to other people's houses and I see the racial differences because it's like so quick story real quick. I had two white friends, Jeff and Greg, two twins, lived like you know the row houses? Like just how townhouses are, but just like
Yeah.
smaller houses.
I grew up in one of those.
All right, so our backyards was basically,
Connected.
the fuck next to each other. So
Yeah.
But they lived like, this is the row house, but their house is on the corner. So they backyard
You got all the
was, like,
fences, and then there's a
right
path
here,
in
like-
between
like,
the
yeah.
fences. Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
but our fences was literally just one fence, so I could jump. Let's say this
Yeah.
is it right here. This is my backyard. This their backyard, but facing that way.
Okay.
So I could jump their fences right here. But they had a basketball court, and every time they outside, we come out back. They, come over, jump the fence, fuck it, play ball, boom. It was one time we was playing ball, with hoop was going in. He said, "Y'all want to come inside, get something to eat or whatever?" We're like, "Cool, whatever." Now remind you, I didn't know this because Jeff and Greg looked just like you. Walk in the house, his dad looked just like me. I was like, his dad, what's up? I'm like, now at the moment, I'm probably in the 6th grade, 5th, 6th grade. Never been in their house. Been living there literally my whole life. Never been in their crib. Never seen their parents.
Yeah.
First time seeing it. Oh, he's so Sean, nice to meet you. Finally meet you. Da, da, da. He cool guy. Mom looked just like you. So
So the babies came out white.
white. Like,
Oh, my.
They look just like their mom.
I always think it's cool how it literally is like a scale, and it can be anywhere on that
Yeah,
scale. It can be
right.
completely white, could be completely black, but it's anywhere within there. I think
But
that's
the
amazing.
thing is, when I'm around them, you'll get that. Oh, they talk and act like their father though. Like
Okay.
they're obvious. Their influence is their father. So, and the father talk because they dad play ball. All of that had us out back doing drills, all that type of shit.
So they have some stereotypical black tendencies, is what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Same thing. Same on the other side as well. Like we used to talk about them the way they talk and shit. Like we all out Philly. Like we talk a certain way. They were like they pronounce their words. So I'll be like, nigga, drop the R on that. Stop pronouncing that shit so proper. Nigga, like we just mess with them. But they was on the block.
Gotcha.
That's technically family on in the book. Like you live on the street, yo, your family. Like especially we grew up and parents know each other, all of that.
Right.
But that was my first time with it, seeing an interracial couple with kids that I thought off rip, which is just the white boys.
Yeah.
But nah, quote unquote, as we would put it, they niggas. Like they some niggas. Like, but I don't see that. I really don't care. I never cared. But the older you get, seeing this bullshit, it's like they categorize it too much. That's what makes it slightly racism. I'm like, yo, bro, we all people, man.
I got one thing to say, just to cut you off. Just for everyone that ever maybe watched this, I don't have the Rona. It is sand and steel in my lungs. It is metal. It is not comfortable. It sucks.
Shit.
Oh, dude, I'm having so much fun doing that job. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I just found out my boss had a heart attack last night and died. So there goes my teacher. And everyone else that's working there is like younger than me. One guy's 18, two guys are 20.
How old are you?
26.
Oh yeah, I just turned 29.
Oh, nice. Yeah, but I mean, this is my dream job. I want to
feel
learn.
that.
I want to learn. I'm learning
trying to
welding.
learn.
I want to learn blacksmithing. I want to learn I want to be able to make shit. I want to be able to walk up and say, people that buy things are suckers, and then go and make
that
something.
shit.
Oh, which
And he fucking died. Damn it. And like, I feel for his family, but I'm also a little peeved because I have no idea where my life's going now. None at all. I don't know if I'll be able to still learn. I don't know if, because I mean, the other guys there, they've been there a year. Like, two of them were there a year, one of them was there 3 months. So I mean, they got 1 year ahead of me. That's it. The other guy has years, and I mean, you can't replace that. You know, that's some knowledge right there that I just lost. That sucks. He also was in the Army, just like same unit as me, 82nd. So
you know, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
I think it was kind of interesting the way you just put that, because like it just made me think of like within, and I do want to get your perspective on when you first race also, but
And I have one more question regarding that for you.
right. But the way you were saying, like, that's so much knowledge just gone, right?
Yeah.
It makes me think about the black community as a whole, because like it's certain sayings that have like been passed around where it's like, okay, back in, let's say around like post World War II, right?
Okay.
Post World War II, you had like industry was popping, we was making shit, like factories was everywhere. That was a point in time where you could graduate from high school, get you a job, and then work that job till retirement, get married, have a household. You get married.
You got skills.
Yeah, and you have the skills. That's honestly most important. But just like the whole aspect of being able to get a job, get married in your early 20s, get a home, start your family, all that. That was a real possibility. That's my little brother leaving. But that or coming in. But that was a real possibility. Whereas as we've like progressed through time, things have changed, certain laws have changed, where around the time the drug epidemic started, you know, the crack epidemic, at that point, it affected the black community in a different way, right? And they talk about this a lot where it's like, okay, first it was cocaine. Everybody was doing cocaine for the most part, but it was an expensive drug. They created crack and it was a lot cheaper, so the poorer aspects of community were able to tap into it more. Black people really utilized that.
Well, it came out with crack, and black people kind of hitched onto that. They came out with meth, and white people really hitched onto that.
Right. But
everyone likes heroin.
Real shit. Heroin is old as shit, and it has stayed the same. But the point being, right, when the crack epidemic happened, it hit the black community in a different way. Whereas it's not to say that white people weren't using crack also, because it was a poor thing. It was cheaper than coke. So if you were a drug addict of any race, you were going to use crack because it was cheaper. But when we talk about how, like, percentage-wise, the black community is just smaller in general. So if it hits us and you got a lot of people who choose to do drugs in this community, it's going to go crazy. Now, in the same way where people tend to do shit, commit crimes in their own communities, right? So if the white population is a lot larger, they got more room to spread and do bullshit. Whereas black people are going to their own corner and doing bullshit. We got that. And then stepping ahead where they actually say, yo, it's a war on drugs. They're looking for it more. If black people are doing it higher on a proportionate level, the black people are going to get policed higher on a proportionate level. And then when you have more black fathers getting taken out of the community, that's where you just like made me think of that when you said every black father that gets locked up, that's so much knowledge, so much teaching that's getting ripped out of the community. Like there's a saying that said, back in the days, black people were raised by their mothers and fathers.
Okay.
Drug epidemic happened. You were raised by a single mother. Continuing forward, we're raised by our grandparents.
Or the foster system,
or
which
the,
is a fucking
or
failure.
or the foster system. But when we talk about the lack of knowledge, that's where shit got so fucked up. Because I could speak personally, right? My mom passed away when I was a baby. I was like, she passed away like 5 days after my first birthday. She had cancer. So she had cancer while she was pregnant with me.
Sorry to hear that, man.
It's R.I.P. my
It
mom.
happens.
It happens. It's fucked up. My dad was doing illegal shit. I remember, and I just over the past few years have rebuilt my relationship with him, right?
Okay.
Or I should say, built my relationship with him because it wasn't that much like as
In
a
the
child.
first place.
But listening to him, he's told me straight up he spent most of the 80s in prison. He was locked up before in the 90s, and then my mom got pregnant with me. He got locked up maybe a year after I was born, and then that was it. Like he was in and out. I was raised by my grandmother.
Yeah.
My little brother. By blood, that's my cousin, but that is my little brother. From the moment he came out his mom, we have lived in the same house all our lives. That is my little brother.
Now that you say that, I actually do, thinking back, realize that quite a few of my black friends were being raised by their grandparents when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Like, there's quite a few times where that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah. I mean, like, I have, like, one or two white friends that had that happen to them, too. Like, they were raised by their grandparents for one reason or another, but nowhere near as much as the black kids were.
Yeah.
Not to say that none of them had parents, but
Yeah,
just
yeah.
there was
Different
definitely a
circumstances.
higher concentration of that happening there, albeit rare, just not as rare as for everyone else.
Mm-hmm. And that type of shit happens, and we're a product of our own decisions. We're a product of our environment, and a lot of the time people can't properly associate where we're a product of this, but we're a product of certain systematic things put in place. Not all the time, like, and I feel like a lot of black people like to cop out and say, "Yo, it's the system."
Yeah.
And we don't like to take accountability for things.
I asked
Whereas,
my boss.
Go
Go ahead. No,
you
I'm
good.
sorry.
But like we don't like to take accountability for things where it to some extent it is the system, but that same system affected every other race also. So we can't say it as though this was particularly put in place on us. We're the only victims of it. But on a larger scale, we don't acknowledge how other things affected us to make us fall victim to it to a deeper capacity than others. Why is it that every other race was hit with the same bullshit, but we have suffered more from it? Are we going to not take accountability for the decisions we made within these particular situations? Most people, maybe not. But then on a higher level, the larger your group, the more people you have to support certain things. For a long time, like even back when we had like segregation and everything, black people had higher levels of how I should put it, finances, I would say, on a certain level. We like Black Wall Street type of thing. Have you know about Black Wall Street, Tulsa, and all that? Okay, so prior to integration, and I believe it was Tulsa, Oklahoma, there was a black community where they were affluent. They had money. They had their own stock market. They were good. And at one point, there was an incident where a person had gotten killed or whatever the situation was. And a bunch of the white people from neighboring areas, I believe they were less fortunate than the black people in that particular area. They went in, they were killing people, they were bombing people. It was fucked up.
Damn.
It was fucked up. But
It's like LA riots, but reversed.
it's deeper. Like niggas actually had planes and were dropping bombs and shit. If I'm remembering it correctly, not
Okay.
like high level military shit, but
No,
just
like grabbed my grandpa's crop duster and threw some shit out the window.
Like houses were getting burned, every businesses was getting fucked up. People had to flee. Now we had certain levels of sustainability within our own community. Now once integration happened, it got to the point where black people were looking at white as better. And that kind of fucked us up right? And let me not even say white is better, but I feel like that's a simple way to put it. Like how prior they had separate but equal, but then you look at pictures of the past where the water fountain that said white only looked a little bit better than what, like just shit like that, surface level bullshit, right? That right there made a lot of people, as soon as integration happened, a lot of black people were like, yeah, we were doing okay on the black only hotels, the black only stores, black only whatever. But now that we can go to the other businesses and we have that subconscious belief that those are better simply because they are of another race, creed, whatever, we're going to go there. Our own community started to get fucked up. And then when we had our own source of family, like, you know, the nuclear family, mom, dad, kids, whatever, we had that to a certain extent. But then once the crack epidemic happened, fathers started getting taken out of the crib. That's where women, especially in the black community, started to rely on the government more. And that's where the I'm independent, I don't need a man.
The government keeps it going, and
yeah,
that's a big can of worms to open with me, buddy. Let me tell you what.
It really is.
But,
I just want to finish this point, right? Because that really is a huge can of worms. But a lot of the times, that's where it gets to, where it's like, okay, we can do it as a family, but when all of your men are going into these different areas, they're going into illegal jobs they shouldn't have. But then that's where we're talking about a point where you weren't learning how to be an architect in high school no more. You weren't learning how to be an engineer in high school no more. You weren't coming out of high school with a diploma in a trade. Mm-hmm. We didn't have skills. And then you have a lot of the, I would say, contentment or contempt for certain communities where you don't want to try no more. You're losing your leaders. You're losing your hope. You're losing your ambition. And then as the men go into the jail system using the easy way out, sell drugs instead of learn a trade, the women are thinking, yo, we need to do this for ourselves. We need to handle it. Well, it's all good when you have welfare, you got WIC, and you have food stamps, you have all these other things and systems put in place to support you. You don't have to work
to get better. You just get better.
Not even have to work to get better. You don't need a man to be successful. You don't need a significant other to be successful. You focus on yourself, but then it gets to the point where that becomes harder. The women start selling drugs too and getting locked up. And then the grandparents from the previous generation take over. But then the problem with that is the kids don't respect it to the same level because of the generational gap. They look at it like, you don't know how things are now, where I'm going to do what I got to do. Or maybe, like, I can speak for myself, right? My grandmother, I love my grandmother. She was born in 1941. My grandfather was born in 1932. They were old. They raised me until I came out here with my aunt. Now, when I think about my initial years, I don't look at it and say, damn, I was poor. I was whatever. Like, I never went without a meal. I was a fat kid all my life. I never went without a meal.
Yeah.
I always had a place to sleep. By the time I got my own room, I had a television in my room. I was not poor. We didn't, from my perspective as the child in that situation.
Just one thing to say. I'd just like to tell any viewers, last time I saw this man, he was husky as fuck. And I walked in, he came and opened the door, and I was like, yo, are you his cousin or something? I was like, God damn, dude, this right here is dedication. Everyone should look up to that. This man.
I appreciate it.
Just congratulations. I just wanted to shout you out like that.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate it. but my point being, right, I didn't grow up needing for anything essential.
Yeah.
But when I consider how I was as a child, when I talk to my friends, like I have friends talk about like, yo, you ever played this video game? And I'm like, nah. But then I'm like, well, I didn't grow up in a place where I was just asking for shit all the time because I didn't feel as though we had it. You know what I mean? Like, I would have loved to just watch TV. January, this game comes out. Mom, can I get it? May, this game comes out. Mom, can I get it? I wasn't that. My birthday is December 8th. Christmas is December 25th. That was pretty much it. Ask for your birthday. I got 1 month out of the year where I'm really getting shit. So I didn't grow up just asking for things all the time. When I was younger, I got certain shit and I was privileged in certain ways. But I realized when I moved, it was the perfect time. I moved a couple months before turning 13. I was already outside the house for a few years. I started walking home by myself in 4th grade. And then, I'm going to the movies by myself with my friends in 7th grade, the year I left. Had I stayed in the city, had I stayed in that room, the room that I grew up in was small as shit. I had a TV, I had a bed, I had a closet, but it was just, compared to what I have now, I would have been claustrophobic. I would have to ask my grandmother, can I get $2? Can I get $5? Just so if I go out with my friends, I could just go get a soda and a bag of chips. If I want to go to a movie with friends, I have to ask for that money. I would have gotten to the point where I would have felt like a burden. I would have felt like, yo, I need to go get my own money. I didn't get an allowance until I moved out here. My aunt was fortunate enough to provide me and my little brother with that. But prior to that, it was just situational asking for money. I would have gotten to that point where I'm like, look, I need to find a way to get money. I need to go do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
If I was to, I would walk outside all the time. Me and my friends, we travel the neighborhood and walk around and do whatever. But I would have gotten to the age where I looked at my cousins on the corner and was like, yo, I'm trying to get some money. That's just environmental at that point.
It's things that were prevalent in my area, like go mow some lawns, offer to wash a car. And I didn't grow up in a primarily white neighborhood. I grew up on, it was mostly young black families with young kids.
Right.
I mean, there's a few Hispanic families. There were other white families, but I'd say it was more heavily on the black family side. With the row houses, you call them. I just call them townhomes. Like if I wanted money to do something, and I mean, I wouldn't say I was rich. I could ask for things a little more often than my birthday and Christmas. Granted, my birthday and Christmas are in the same fucking month. But
December babies.
yeah, right. Gotta love it. But I didn't really have any needs. I had 3 meals a day. We'd go places every now and then. My dad was a construction worker. They were divorced and split up, but it was for the most part cordial. He paid the child support. He helped out with other things as well. But I didn't have any needs. I had very few wants. But I never had a point where, hey, let me go sell drugs.
Right.
The neighborhood next to us was, but like none of the kids in our neighborhood, I don't think that crossed their mind, black, white, whatever. It was, go mow a lawn, go do some manual labor, go offer to help that lady take her groceries in the house. She might give you a few bucks. Go fucking whatever. But I mean, it was always like do work. Where does that come from? Like, is that other options just not really something you thought about?
No.
Or?
Well, see, in that particular environment, like,
Yeah.
and that those really aren't necessarily like those options aren't necessarily there. Because when I came to Delaware,
Going and mowing a lawn isn't an option.
because there was no lawns in my neighborhood. It's the city. Like it's the city. So you
We
walk.
had small lawns. It was like
See, well, I'm talking about
a little bit bigger than that. That's about
apartment
it.
buildings. Like if in the building that
Gotcha.
I grew up, you walk outside, nothing but concrete apartment buildings. You walk around the whole neighborhood, it's nothing but stores and apartment buildings.
So just a different environment, like physical environment. So different
But then
necessities, different needs.
I come out here when I came to Delaware. Like I came out here in 8th grade. By 9th grade, it's snowing. Bet I'm hyped for the snow. I'm about to go around.
but
I got
you
the
do
shovel.
the shoveling, you make
I'm
your
about to
money
go,
that way?
because that's
Okay.
the option out here.
Okay, because
It's not really the same option in the city. Well, not necessarily snow, because there was a particular time where I was younger, and from the moment I left the city, I would always go back and forth, holidays, vacations, random weekends, whatever. So there was a time where I went to the city, it was snowing, and me and my homie, we went shoveling. It was like it was like a big blizzard. So we go to the one of the bodegas on my homie block. And we like, yo, we'll shovel the pathway. We got paid for that. We like walk and we see somebody, their car is like buried in. We'll shovel your car out for some bread. That was an option.
Okay.
Outside of that,
Not really.
it's
Okay.
nothing you could really do. I mean, like you could help the old lady with her groceries, but there's no guarantee in money. You could do that to be kind and to be nice and just be a good human being helping the elderly.
Yeah.
But
no, I get it.
as
I
far
get
as
it.
like finding ways to make money, It's hard. Like
I get it.
the easy way is drugs. Now, even out here, I sold candy.
I've noticed that you keep saying that was the easy way, and
Or the
fine.
the most accessible way, because outside of that,
accessible?
and unless you're really like, I sold candy out here.
Yeah.
I would go to
Kids do that too.
go to the local supermarket, buy you a little 6-pack and a little mini Kit Kats, Jolly Ranchers, whatever you can get your hands on, and go sell it
them
at
for
school.
enough to make more, buy more.
Exactly.
I get
but
it. I get it.
Outside of that, if you growing up in the city, I mean, outside of drugs,
No, let me speak on it real quick.
how much is there really?
Go for
So the fact that because I heard you say easy, like yeah, it's easy as shit to get drawn into that. Like let's say, like I'm gonna just put it in perspective where I'm from. I was the kid to just go to the court, play basketball, and be an actual kid. Like not
Yeah.
worried about drugs or girls or none of that
Money
shit.
and all that good
I
stuff.
didn't give a shit. I was fine. Yeah, I'm in the hood, but I was fine. Like I ate, had clothes on my back, had somewhere to sleep at. I was fine. So
No needs.
yeah, like if I
Healthy
ask my
amount of
mom for a
wants.
PlayStation for my birthday, I would probably have to wait till Christmas and get it, just so everybody can feel. Because I had two other brothers and a sister. So
Yeah.
but I got it. You feel what I'm saying? Like, but I never had to go on the block and be like, "Yo, I need to do da." But I've seen friends all the time. If you have like an older brother, older uncle, somebody that's close to you or us on the block, that we can just go down there and ask them, "Yo, can I get a shot to do this, and this?" That old head is only thinking about one thing: moving that product or getting that bread. So if you got a young boy that's going to run up the street and just drop some off, come back with 20, 30, however much, and break that young boy off $5 to $10, young boy gonna look at that. If I do that shit 10, 15, 20 times, I'm having me like 100, 200. Like that adds up.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
So it's
I
like
understand how it
that's
works.
the easiest thing.
It's just
It's just a shame that that's the easiest thing to do besides just
I'll
going
say
to get a
It's
job.
accessible.
Yeah,
That's a
accessible.
wonderful word to use and lets me have a better understanding of it
Yeah,
because,
'cause
like you said, I didn't. I also grew up. I didn't have a need for that. If I wanted something, I could ask for it. And if I wanted to do something for myself, just because like
But it-
I gotta know or go get it yourself kind of deal, or just straight up saying I want something to feel personally accomplished. I went and mowed lawns. I went and shoveled snow. I went and offered
Yeah.
clean cars. I did those little things, but I mean,
I think so. Like
It's accessible.
and it's also about if a young boy would see his elders, his older cousins on him, they all on the block. What is
Yeah.
he going to gravitate towards?
That's
He's
real.
going to
Yeah.
gravitate towards them, unless there's somebody in his life telling him there's another way. If you,
You
don't
need that
have,
other way.
because you don't have the people.
You need that other way.
yeah, that's what I'm
I was
saying. Unless you had that person in your life that's telling you, look, all right, you can see your friend, you can see your cousin on doing A, B, C, and D. They making a bunch of money. They doing whatever. But it's always a guarantee that the nigga's gonna see a jail cell doing that shit for long term.
Right.
Or you're gonna have to get in a shootout. Something's going to happen negative.
Some type of bullshit.
So unless you bow out at a certain point, some bullshit's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And you need that. Young boys need to know that, and certain young boys don't give a fuck. They don't care. That
had
comes
this-
with that whole saying. It comes with the game shit. Gets on my nerves.
Yeah.
Because it's like we have the power to change the narrative. We have the power to
Personal responsibility.
Right.
Exactly. We have the
Right,
power
right.
to let these younger generations, the new generations, know like, yo, yeah, that's the popular thing. Sag your pants, have a gun, all this. That's the popular thing, but y'all doing it for the wrong fucking reasons, man. Y'all need to shed light on the positive things. And yeah, people say, like certain people, they will say you're a hypocrite because, like for example, I'm gonna put it in this for example, rappers, they'll rap about Lord knows any fucking, you already know. But then we'll turn around and do for the community. You need to understand what's entertainment and what's real life. These young bulls are glorifying the entertainment. And understand that it may come from a real spot. It may come from something that happened way, way back then. But can't you see that in some, I'm not saying all, because most of the shit is some bullshit. Most. But some of them came from a spot, learned from their mistakes, and changed them for the better. Even if they still do make a track about, whipping this, that's what's going to sell. They know that. That's going to make the money. But
I remember talking to a guy when I was in the Army, and I'm sorry for cutting you off.
Good,
Just real quick. I remember talking to a guy while I was in the Army who told me a story about how he used to go to those guys standing on the side corner and call them stupid. They'd be like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, you could be selling T-shirts right now. You go down to Walmart, you buy a pack of white T-shirts, you grab a thing of paint, make tie-dye T-shirts. You can sell them for make $6 to $7 more per T-shirt, and then like
Flip it
and
keep
just
doing it.
flip it. And you ain't even gonna get arrested for it. You make even more money. A bunch of motherfuckers out here want to buy these T-shirts, but
Right.
nobody's really making them. Kids need fucking clothes, and you could be making some money. Personalize your T-shirts, get a whole community base to it, and then do something good with that money. And you're out here selling drugs, which are hurting people.
Right.
And he used to apparently change hearts and minds with that. And like you said before, nobody else is out there telling them this stuff. They think that's all there is, and that's
I mean, because it's kind of
a
hard
reason to have these podcasts alone.
Yeah, like it's hard as shit to go up to somebody that's been seeing this shit for 10, 20 years and tell them, yo, there's another way. That nigga gonna think, no, this is the only way. When I'm like, yeah, no, it's not. Then you gotta, it takes you actually giving a fuck to keep beating that message to somebody.
My forge needs more people, but nobody ever applies. I mean, we had, I'm working with 3 other dudes and they're all white. I even asked the boss once, I was like, why don't any black guys work here? I'm not saying you're racist or anything. I just want your honest opinion on
don't
that
apply,
simple
right?
question. He said, well, they almost never apply, and the few that do end up destroying the place. And it's just like they either don't want to work or they end up like deliberately just breaking shit in stupidest ways possible. Because
don't care about
that
the
local
job.
community is just, I mean, I don't know. I haven't met any. It's fucking Maryland. There ain't a whole lot of black people in and of itself, but like, it seems to me like a lot of people either don't think about these jobs, they don't think about these businesses. Like, they think you either go work at Walmart or you sell drugs, but like you can.
See,
I got this job on a handshake.
yeah.
I did. It's just I walked. I gave him a phone call. He said, "Can you come in tomorrow at 11?" I went in the next day at 11. I shook his hand. I had a conversation. Then I clocked in an hour after that.
See, to chime in on that point,
Yeah.
I would say, and I can't speak for all black people here,
I got you.
but this is just like my personal opinion. I feel like a lot of black people have lost the value in trades. And I feel like that's one of the key issues. Like, if we take it back, if we talk about like right at the end of slavery, right? All the black people ex-slaves, well, obviously they had trades because they were forced to do certain
They
shit. Right?
they were built like
Yeah.
fucking mules for a
but,
reason.
but not even on a physical aspect. It's just like you know about Roots, the movie Roots, or the TV series
I
Roots.
haven't seen it, but I'm aware of its
You know,
existence.
all right. So it's actually really good. I haven't
I've
seen
heard
it
it.
start to finish.
I haven't bothered to watch
But
it. Yet.
in it, right, you had one of the characters that was a blacksmith, and there was a point in time where like there was a group of white people that came in to fuck with the slaves and whatever, and this particular blacksmith, they would wear masks, this like early KKK type shit, and one of the dudes was a blacksmith that would create the horseshoes for all the local people horses. So in order to find out who was the like people in the mask, every time he would repair the horseshoe, he would like etch a little carving into it. That way, whenever he would see the horse tracks, he would see, oh yeah, this is the person. I did their horseshoe, so I know who it is. Whatever. I bring
Smart.
that up, right? But I bring that up just to say, back then they had skills, trades, maybe, and then even as far as like what I was talking about prior to the crack epidemic, like where you have just the nuclear family base type things, you had carpenters, you had plumbers, you had construction workers, you had people working in warehouses, factories. They had certain skills. Whereas at a certain point, as the black community started to decline, the drugs got worse, people started going to prison, there's less fathers in the household, we have less examples of successful men working trades. So as time progressed, the 2 primary role models for the black community became the local drug dealer and the sports people, the athletes. That, like how Biggie said, like either you sell crack rock or you got a wicked jump shot. Like that was the whole mentality. Either I'm gonna do entertainment, music,
Sports.
something like that, or I'm gonna do sports. Where you're not saying, "Yo, I'm gonna be a plumber. I'm gonna create my own plumbing company. I'm gonna be a carpenter. I'm gonna work in every crib that's in this neighborhood. I'm gonna be a factory worker, and we're gonna make the fuck out of these cars." But there's less pride in that. So, especially now, when we talk about blacksmithing, that is something that I feel most people in the black community wouldn't even consider, because, and then that goes into another aspect of like pop culture, how we feel on certain jobs and whatever. Because nowadays, especially with social media, people don't want a job that will sustain them. They want a job that brings them attention, notoriety, clout to a certain point. Like
Being good gives you all that shit too.
right. Like if you were to ask a guy, like, would you rather make $100,000 a year being a plumber or $100,000 a year being a social media influencer? A lot of people will pick social media influencer because of the attention it brings, opposed to the plumber that gives you a certain amount of skills and you don't need to rely on how people feel about you. You just rely on your skills you developed.
Well, there's another layer to that. Like, not only do you not have to rely on other people and how they feel about you, you don't have to rely on other people for services.
Right.
As a blacksmith, like, if I break a hammer, I can go and make another hammer myself, and I don't spend a dime on anything beyond the materials.
Yeah, materials.
Like, I want tongs, I go and get 2 flat pieces of metal, heat them up, twist them in a certain way, and then nail them together, and there I have a new pair of tongs.
Right.
Like, and I can take these skills, like welding. Like, I got this job on a handshake and literally was working. I got told you start at $12 an hour. Within your first 3 months, you'll get a raise to $13 an hour. And then based on your performance, you might get more. One dude's been there a year and he's already up to 15. Like, boss has no obligation to pay him more than $12 an hour. That's literally the minimum wage in that state. This dude's getting fucking 15 years old at $15 an hour at 20 years old, and he's being trained on how to bid for jobs. I'm talking no prior knowledge on anything. I walk in there and they're working on a staircase that costs $45,000, and I'm told I had the welder swung over to me because all the machine, it's on a big ass arm that can swing and get anywhere. It's fucking amazing, and said put on your helmet and weld that. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. He's like, well, if you mess up, we can fix it and do it again until you get it right.
Say that, yeah.
Literally, I've been there for about a month and a half. And now, like, hey, you need to fix a muffler on your car? We can chop that shit off and put a whole new one on there. I can do that. I don't have to rely on a mechanic to weld a new muffler onto your car. I can do that.
Right.
The people in the black community, they walk in there, said, hey, I wish to learn. I want to know how to use these tools and build things, and then actually show up on time and put in the effort to do it. Not only are they getting paid to learn, paid to get this stuff, they're getting free lessons. I'm getting taught every day I'm in there. I'm taught how to sandblast things, how to paint things properly, how to weld, grind, to use all of the different heavy machinery in there. And I'm not paying a dime to learn this. I'm being paid to learn this. I can go to college and spend $80,000 a year to learn this exact same knowledge from somebody that mostly just read a book on it. And most of my experience in there will be reading books. Or, I mean, you can go to a trade school, and they're not open right now, but you can go to trade school, spend significantly less, but still pay to learn this stuff. Yeah. Or you can just walk into a place, say, I will do the easy manual labor. In return, just teach me everything you can. Right. And I even told the guy walking in there, I don't even need a paycheck. If that's what it takes to get me in here, I don't need a paycheck. He's like, oh, I'll pay you. I'm not worried about it. But I mean, it's too easy. You walk into an auto shop and you say, oh, I know minimum about cars, but I want to learn. Teach me. You teach me. I'll clean. You teach me stuff so I can learn, and I'll learn. Right. And now, I mean, I don't have the confidence to go and to take on a $45,000 job by myself, but I could honestly go to any forge in the country and say, I know how to weld. Like, you give me a MIG welder and I'll get the job done. Right. And they can confidently hire me now. I have job security after a month, and it feels so good. And like, I got a welder in my basement. It's set up for stick welding, but I can change it to other kinds. But I can take that anywhere. And be like, somebody's car broke down. They need this part put back on. I can go and shove that part back on. I can fix it, and I can do it myself, and I can make a little money doing it too. So
And that's real. Like you develop the skills. And
like this table here, I can
I
build
was
this shit.
literally just about to say some shit like that.
This
I was
right
gonna
here,
say like, yo, you could probably do some shit
this
with the
little
table,
bar
bro.
right here, that is very clearly welded on there. That is one
Yeah,
piece of
you
metal
get-
now. I can make this thing easy.
I feel as though like this, bro. Having trades, like even just welding, carpeting, like a bunch of things like around the house, around the spot, shit that a man can do by himself. I feel as though when a womanize your value should, because
Yep.
because you should, because certain things that like my dad was around, bro. Like I had my father my whole life. I can call my dad right now, and see
Good.
what he doing. He's in Maryland. Like
Glad to hear it.
But my thing is having a dad there and a father being a father is two different fucking things.
Yeah.
Like my dad was in the crib, but guess who was taking care of everything?
Mom.
My mom. Who raised me, told me right from wrong with shit like that.
Your mom.
My mom. My dad taught me how to wear a condom and threw me in the gym to play ball. And not to put a stereotype on thing. That's nigga shit, man. I could have done that myself. Who taught me how to fight? Myself. Who taught me how to with women? My mom. Like I learned a lot of it from my mom. And then to this day, my dad's still in my ear if I ask him. But do I want to ask my dad? Like no, he wasn't successful with my mother. So and there's also prior relationships before my mother you told me about.
Is it he didn't try, or there was no immediate necessity?
I feel as though
would
the
you
fact
say?
that my dad didn't have his dad around when he was young, on top of the fact where he
Gotcha.
grew up, my dad's from Northern Jersey, from Hackensack, grew up in D.C., so it was like, and he was also out New York a lot because he got a bunch of cousins out in New York, out Staten Island and shit. I told you that before. So it was like, my dad was all around the place, and my dad was raised by his mom, which my RIP, my grandmother, we called her mother. I love my damn grandmother, but like that was I learned a lot from her as well. But that was towards humor. Like I learned my family, everything is dealt with through like just laughing. Like we can have we have conversations how we can have it now, but at the end of the day, it's going to end with us laughing.
Yeah.
That's how I leap my best foot forward. That's what I learned from my father is that yo, we gotta laugh.
That's a
But
good thing to
everything
learn.
like the fundamentals with other shit, I learned either by myself or through my mother or through
Gotcha.
through other male influences I had in my life.
Yeah.
But the fact that we're going back to the point, like having your father there and not having your father there, the nigga could be right in the other room. That doesn't mean he's there. Cause it's like it's certain things I'll go get in a fight outside. I come home, my dad in the crib right there. It's like either one or two things is gonna happen in my lifestyle. In my life, I know. I go tell him that either I'm gotta go back the fuck outside, I gotta rumble again, or or I gotta go back outside and I gotta rumble again. Only one thing was happening, dog. So it's like
There's two things that are happening.
Yeah,
Wait,
that's why
there's
I
one
just
thing
thought
that's
about it.
happening.
Yeah, I had to think about it. I'm like, nah, that's one. But it's like
Oof.
when I love my childhood, I love my pop, and there ain't nothing negative about it. But I just feel as though certain aspects I would think my dad could step up to the
I get
plate
it.
and help me out in things. You feel me?
Yeah, I get
Like
that.
with women and all this other shit. Like it's certain things I had to deal with myself. So that's why when you ask me about women only, and I could tell you certain things because like yo, I dealt with that shit myself.
Yeah.
I learned myself, and then when I built up the courage to ask my mom, because I knew it was gonna be a totally different type of advice coming from a woman. She's gonna tell you what she thinks I should do, not what
She knows you should do.
exactly.
Because she's
what
not
she,
about
what she,
the
what
guy.
she, what as a woman, she's gonna tell you what she would like a man to do. Not what not if there was an actual scripture of what a man should do. She's going to tell you that. I'm
Yeah.
saying like she's going to tell you what she feels though a woman would want. And
Gotcha.
you can take that advice and hear it and twist it in your own joint, but you can't really take it as verbatim because
It doesn't help you know what you need to actually do to accomplish it. I get that. No,
and
I
on
get
top
that.
of that, she's one woman out of how many? I mean, yes,
All
your
of them.
mother, but she's one woman on this earth.
Yeah.
So she can't tell you what a man want. So and then
I
even
get
my
you.
father, like I ask him, he'll break it down like to the simple points of things that we talked about multiple times. It's about how much money you bring to the table, this, and this. Like but he's looking at it as and no disrespect to my pop, he's looking at it as a man that has failed with women over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
So I take his advice. I hear you, but it's like, bro, you got a bunch of L's under your belt. Like,
Yeah.
like I got like.
Well, L's just means he knows what not to do.
Yeah,
And he
but
can
if
help
you
out
keep
with that.
doing, I understand that if you make that L and you learn
Yeah.
from it, cool. You take that mistake and keep making that mistake and keep making that mistake. It comes to a point where it's like, all right, nigga, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
You're doing the
No, I
same
get
thing
it.
over and over and over and over. So it's like it comes to a point where it's like I'm your son. I know I love you. I see that you're doing your thing, but you make the same mistake over and over and over and over and over. Like I can't keep looking at you as an example of what a man should be.
Oh snap! This is 3 hours.
Yes, it is.
Oh, nice. I'm loving this. I'm
Yeah,
still
but
loving
I'm
this.
just looking at it as like,
Oh snap!
yo, I'm gonna take what you do
I'm not even
and
your
learn
neighbor
from your
until like
mistakes,
9.
like how you should do.
Oh, word.
So I
feel
got another
me?
2 hours if you want me for another 2 hours. I'm
Well,
not saying we're gonna do this
I
for
feel
another 2
like-
hours,
I
I
but
feel like we getting towards the end though, because for real, I'm probably gonna split this into 2 episodes for
Okay.
real, for real.
well,
'cause,
actually,
like-
I have a question for you that I
Yeah.
asked him, but we got a little sidetracked there. As a child, like before you really noticed race, like on your own in
Yeah.
school and whatnot, did your parents ever bring it up and like have conversations of
never,
like don't do shit with them white kids?
Nope.
or-
Well,
Not like that.
all right. So this what I'll say. This what I'll say. I'm gonna say no, never. But here's the interesting thing, right? My grandmother, she is from New York,
Okay.
so I feel comfortable saying for forever, damn near, not literally forever, but for the longest amount of time, New York has been diverse. Like even during Civil War times,
yeah.
you know, New York was one of those northern states where a slave could run away to and be free. So it's been diverse for a long time. My particular neighborhood, I'm hyped because it's like Stan Lee, you know, one of the creators of Marvel. He's from my neighborhood.
Nice.
It's like my neighborhood, from what I was told, I believe at one point it was a Jewish neighborhood, then it was a Cuban neighborhood, then it was a black neighborhood. Now it's primarily a Dominican neighborhood. But this city entirely has always been diverse. My grandmother, she has made comments here and there, but mainly in my adulthood. Never as a child has she
Okay.
ever mentioned anything about race, any type of discrimination, nothing. My grandfather, on the other hand, he's from South Carolina. 1932 he was born. So he was
Been there.
yeah, honestly, like I want to have more conversations with him because like he's getting older, but it's like you were 23 during the 1955 bus boycott. It's like damn, like
That's
you,
fresh. You still remember? all that.
yeah, that's like he was in our age group, like a couple years younger than we are right now. When the big shit,
hit the
like
fan,
he was there for Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. He was an
Nice.
adult. So like keeping that in mind,
So that's me.
when I was young, like I said, I grew up in a primarily Dominican neighborhood. So as I'm getting a little bit older to where I can go to my friend's house by myself, or you know, everybody's different as far as what age they allow that. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna say 10, 11, 12 in that age range. I'm
Same
like,
for
yeah,
me.
I'm about to go hang out with my friend Michael. My friend Michael is Dominican. My grandfather might make certain comments like, "Oh, be careful, you hanging with them oyes and da 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 da." I'm like, wait, like what? I don't take it serious, but he's coming from a different perspective. And now me being a younger person, I'm not even fully aware of all the history of the neighborhood. Because like I said, it went from black community to primarily Dominican community. I didn't know this till I was older, but there would be like fights, gang fights, motherfuckers throwing shit off buildings and shit. You Dominican, you black. It was like certain beefs at certain points in time. So
But you
him
didn't notice it as a kid.
as a kid, that shit was
Okay.
non-existent.
But
Like for me, it was non-existent. But him being an adult, like, and by this point, I'm talking. Well, based on what I understand, I'm talking maybe late 70s, 80s, 90s. So my grandfather at that point was 40s, 50s, 60s. Like he was old during this time. So he's just peeping this shit. Maybe he's hearing about news articles. He's hearing about things going on. He's telling me to be careful out of a genuine fear based on his experience, understanding that black people and Hispanic people had certain tension,
but
whereas
is that where
it
you
wasn't
realized
existent.
it, or did it kind of go over your head a bit? And you not really
Well-
you realized it in hindsight, but you didn't realize it at the time.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
in hindsight, I would say I understand, like having learned about the history and attention to certain extents,
Gotcha.
I get it. But as a kid, I'm just like, well, I've known him since elementary school. Like I've always grown up around Hispanic people. I mean, there's never been an issue that I've dealt with in particular that involves race So I'm just like, yeah, my grandfather's just tripping right now. Like that's how I took it. I'm just like, yo, he's just saying this shit. I'm just like, yeah, ignore what he just said. He's on some other shit. But as an adult, I get where the fear comes from and where he was genuinely trying to give me advice based on his past experiences or knowledge that he holds.
I get it.
So I don't necessarily get mad at it. Yeah.
Fair enough. But and just to ping pong back to you, but you said earlier that your parents would make jokes about it, but like you understood it was a joke. But like even then, you didn't really start to realize that there's like a skin color actually.
Now I always understood that, you know, skin color, difference of race. I understood that.
Okay.
Because I was, you know, because in my household, like not in my house, well, my family. Let me say my family, not to just say just keep it bounded to my household.
Yeah.
My grandmother, I peeped from, when I say birth, from fucking birth, that she really didn't like white people.
Okay.
And I never really grasped that. I'm like, the fuck, they got 5 fingers like I do. like
No, I get it.
We're the same. That's what I
And
know.
I'm not
I'm
not
like,
asking like the moment you like became racist or anything like that. I'm just asking like walked into class and said, "Wait a second, there's a difference between that person and this person." Like not necessarily that they're different people.
That would probably
but,
have to happen when I was a young boy, like young boy. Some
Early
I don't
elementary
remember.
type shit.
Yeah, like I don't remember that. But I'm
Fair
just
enough.
saying, like I was already taught that before I even got to the classroom.
Gotcha.
Because I was on the block, young boy. We see that, like there was literally on my street is a fucking melting pot. So like even when I rode past my old crib to this day, what did I say? You remember what I said? You asked me, like, who live there now? I was like, fucking Africans.
Yeah.
I was like, and that's just, it was, I don't have nothing against Africans, but I just remember when I first, like, it was one time we moved out, like a little bit right after we moved out as kids. We had to go back to get some more shit out the basement. And we come back and just some stereotypical shit. I smell oxtail, bunch of rice, all this extra shit. I'm like,
That shit sound fire. I ain't going to front.
I get it, but when you cooking that shit
Oxtail
raw,
and
that shit
rice.
gotta smell like you smell clear the crib out like some chitlins, and I never smelled chitlins, so I don't want to. But I'm just saying, like that shit.
and
was,
I don't want to.
I don't like I said, but that shit was just. You know what I'm saying that
I
shit
mean,
didn't
chilling's
smell that
alright
good.
with some hot sauce and ketchup.
Oh my goodness.
I need
I'm
to.
just saying.
You guys swim me in the right direction because right now I do not like oxtail. Like so, you know what I'm saying. I'm always down to try some new shit, but if I don't like it, I don't.
Let's just get you with guns first.
Oh no, I love guns. I love guns. Yeah, I love guns for
Nah,
some
you
reason.
gonna love
I really
some
do.
oxtail. If
I
you
really
like
have a
steak,
fetish
if
on
you
when they
like
shoot
steak,
certain
you're gonna
guns.
like
Like,
oxtail. That's my statement. If you could fuck with steak, you gonna like oxtail.
I'm a steak hit and miss with me. Like, it's
How do you eat it?
What?
Medium well.
Oxtail
Okay.
or steak? Oh, you meant
steak
steak.
medium well?
Okay.
When I say
well.
I'm a medium guy. Medium.
medium. Oh, let me say that. I'm sorry. That's my burgers. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Burgers I like medium well.
Good.
If I was to
Acceptable.
go for a steak, I would try medium.
It's medium.
Oh goodness.
Which
I do
one?
rare or medium rare and just put a little salt and pepper on there and just
But
enjoy
you know,
it.
because I'm sensitive. When I tell you
I'll
I eat
say
red meat
medium.
and that shit would have me on the toilet, bro. Like I'm.
That's worth it.
See, medium.
I
is-
never
Sushi
had-
does that to me. If I I would be on the toilet spewing liquids out of both ends if I eat too much sushi. But like
that,
it's worth
I got
it.
sushi at the crib right now. My uncle brought it down. My other uncle brought it down.
You better eat that quick.
He was
Yeah,
like,
you
yeah, I
gotta
got.
eat sushi
He said he
quick.
got California roll in there, and some other shit. And I looked at it and I saw he bought it from Acme and straight up
Oh
turned
no!
me
Fuck
off.
Oh,
that.
no.
Yeah,
Turned me
nah,
the fuck
stop.
Oh,
off.
no.
I was like, nah. Yeah,
Where-
he was like, yeah, I
Don't
got
eat
ribs.
supermarket sushi unless it's like an
Bro,
Asian market.
He
or
said
some shit.
I came downstairs. He tried to get my attention because I'm saying hi to my grandma and my mom at the crib. I say what's up. Turn around, he's like getting my attention. He's like, I got food here. He's like, I got ribs, I got chicken, I got mac and cheese. I tell him, oh, all right. I turn around, all that shit from ShopRite. I'm like, nigga. I'm like, come on, bro. That's the laziest shit. But at the same time, like, I get it. You wanted to bring some food, but this is some lazy shit for a Mother's Day meal. You gonna buy your mother a
lazy.
dinner from ShopRite?
Yep.
I mean,
You're
if
not
you
gonna
get
try to put
ingredient-
no-
It's the difference between ingredients from ShopRite and dinner from ShopRite.
I hear that, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, cook that fucking meal. Bro.
Yeah, facts.
No, I get it.
That's your
Facts,
mother,
facts.
man. Even if
For
you can't,
that,
if
yeah.
you can't cook, take her out. Take her out to a restaurant. Don't
I'm with
buy
you.
some shit that been sitting there all damn day, bro. The tag says it been made at 10:30 in the morning. It's 6. Like the fuck, like come on, dog. Like come on, man. But hey, I didn't eat it. I straight up went in the fridge, ate the shit from yesterday. I was
I'll
like,
be
yeah.
honest, I'm not
I
sure
look-
how we got on this
But
conversation.
hold on, yeah,
I
know.
really don't.
But I want to ask you
You
though.
started
all right,
talking about chitlins.
just
all
to-
right,
all right.
just to get back to you though. So at what point, like, because we both discussed it, at what age did you kind of realize race and like that situation? Yeah.
So I didn't get raised with the idea that race existed at all. there was no African Americans or anything. It was just the other kids.
Yeah.
So, like the only thing that really addressed it at all was that children's gospel song, "Red, Yellow, Black, and White." They are like that's the only thing that would be at all considered addressing race to me that I was experienced to at all. I grew up in a primarily black neighborhood over in Bear. I mean, it was young families though. It was like 2-parent households. There were some that were grandparents, but it was like young kids, and they grew up, and like the other neighborhood had drugs and violence, but ours didn't.
Do you know where Village of Canterbury is? It's on 40.
Is that right next to what used to be Sparrows Run?
I believe so.
Yeah, I grew up in there.
See, so when I first DJ's from Delaware. DJ was born in Newark.
Are you talking about the one that has like the CVS right next to it right now?
I believe so. It's like townhouses and like apartments.
Yeah,
and
it's
shit.
like townhouses, and then like across the street they got that pizza place.
Yep, and they got that little spot where the laundromat and all that shit is at.
The what?
They got a laundromat and like a little grocery store across the street from it. It's right next. Like when I say it's like a big like you know where Fox Run is, right?
Yeah.
Like it literally looks just like Fox Run, but it's like okay, so.
I'm thinking...
all right, I'm gonna try to put it on the map real quick. All right, so let's say we're on a 40-30-13 split. The 40-13 split, right? You know where like the McDonald's, Kmart, all that shit is at. Little Caesars, Chick-fil-A.
It's been a minute, man. I'll be honest.
That's like further up.
That's further up than you. Like Sparrow, I know where Sparrow Run is, but I'm just saying that I'm trying like really.
The Sparrow Run is like Sparrow Run a little bit, and then my development. I cannot remember the name of the development I grew up in, but like across the street there was, I think it was a Seasons Pizza, and a liquor store like across the highway.
Oh yeah,
Route
so
40.
that was a little I was a little further down. Yeah.
All right, but I grew
we're
up in that
literally
neighborhood.
on the same strip, like same thing.
Fair enough.
So it's literally like where I was at nowadays is the hood, the project, or some shit.
Gotcha. Well, nowadays apparently there's like people shooting at each other in that fucking neighborhood. Nowadays, the one I grew up in, my mom, well, the little ones still live there, but we're not little anymore.
Yeah.
But like, I grew up there. Like, I went to I think it was Reading Rainbow preschool or whatever. It was 2 black ladies that ran it, and it was a relatively diverse group of small children. Never noticed color. Like, it was nothing more than a descriptive trait, and even then it didn't cross my mind. What's up?
No,
okay. Like I went there for years. I think I was about 7 when I first realized race. And what happened was my mom brought me to the park, and like they'd always like my mom and dad both, like, they split up when I was kind of young, but like they both had the same mentality of just like there is no difference for people.
Right.
And my first experience was I was using one of them fucking zip lines where it's a rail, and they got the bar that slides along, and it makes a lot of noise, but it's kind of fun for the small kids. And these 2 black brothers come over to me, and they're a little older than me, a little taller than me. I mean, I was young, so it wasn't easy to be taller than me at that point. It's hard now, but they came over and they're like, "I want to turn." I'm like, "Okay." So I let them make the turn, and they go back and forth, and they keep passing off to each other. I'm like, "All right, can I have a turn again?" They're like, "No." I'm like, "Why not?" They're like, "Well, because your ancestors enslaved our ancestors," and something along those lines.
Bro.
And I didn't understand it, but I knew they were being mean, and I started fucking crying and went to my mom, and I'm like, I told her what they said because I could remember it back then, but it was something along those lines now. And she went, "What?" And walked over to their mother, and she said, and I didn't walk over there with her. She told me to wait there. And she walked over to their mother, and she went, "Ma'am, like, this is what your kids just said to my son." And she went, "What?" Stood up, went over there, and took off her shoe. And started whooping them. And then marched them over to me and had them say sorry and walked away. And I remember my mom had a conversation with me. I don't remember the conversation, but it was ever since that day, it was just like, how can people see each other differently?
Right.
Like, it was just right then and there, it started a constant state of confusion for the next few years when it came to skin color. Just like it never changed how I treated anybody. I can honestly say that. I didn't think, oh, well, now black people are going to treat me differently. I was just like, those 2 kids were assholes.
Right.
Which is how my mom explained it to me. And the lady that was raising them was also black. She was very nice. She apologized to me.
Good. Yeah.
And, but like that was my first experience, that right there. And like I've experienced shit like that quite often. I've experienced being treated like that more than I've seen people be legitimately like racist to black people for being black.
Yeah.
Or any other race really. And I mean, granted, that's my experience. I also live in fucking Delaware, so yeah. But yeah, that was my first experience. It's kind of it's different to see you guys raised in a way that's like, yeah, race exists beforehand. You're African American, not just you're an American.
Right.
I wasn't told I was a white American. I was told I'm an American. And honestly, the kids in my area were also told you're Americans. You're not African Americans. Like they might have ate different food. They had different styles of living. But in that community, thankfully, for as long as I existed within it, it was you're an American. Everyone was under the same opinion, which I think I'm very grateful for. But yeah.
See, I feel like it's a mix of generational issues mixed with societal issues, right? Because on one hand, right, you have like in an ideal world, right? Every person that is born in America and has a birth certificate that shows that they're American will look at themselves and be like, yo, I'm American. Every immigrant that comes over here from wherever they come from and says, yo, I want to become an American, once they get their citizenship, they can look at themselves and say, yo, I am American.
And that's what it's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be. But the issue with it is at every point in time, even from the days of where immigration was first starting, like Ellis Island, Angel Island type shit, people were coming here from other countries, but they still maintained a certain amount of their culture, regardless of them choosing to be American. Whereas the African American community, outside of Africans that come from Africa, like I should say the descendant of slave community, we never had the choice to be American. We were brought over here and we became American to a certain extent. But we never came over here and said, we want to be American. So we came over, we did whatever was necessary to get citizenship. It's more so like, yo, you're in America, freedom, not become American, but freedom. Now, at that point in time, you know, the Constitution got made, Declaration of Independence, all this type of shit, all men created equal, and so on and so forth. We tried to attach to that, but then culturally, systemically, it's always been hard. Like from the moment we were freed as slaves, they created loitering. So if you don't got no job, you don't have a slave master, nobody's going to hire you, you're going to go be put in jail just for sitting down somewhere. Like bullshit.
Yeah.
But as things progressed, you would see even others. Like when Italians first came to America, they weren't considered white.
Same with the Irish.
Same with the Irish, same with the Polish.
Yep.
Like they weren't considered white. They were persecuted. They were fucked up. And at certain points in time, they developed certain privilege based on how they integrated into whatever category we put them into. Whereas black people always, for the most part, either weren't accepted, weren't able to keep their shit together, weren't able to properly come into that group. Whereas everybody else, they choose to be American. Black people kind of they fight to be American, and we don't necessarily acknowledge the leftover bullshit of everything prior. Because everybody that comes to America nowadays, I would say, or at least in the last 100+ years, you know, early 1900s, regardless of what persecution they dealt with, where they come from, they come here for the American dream, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas we have had the bullshit from jump, you know what I mean? The slavery, the training of certain mentalities. And as we break out of it, we had success. So I don't think that's the cop out there to say, oh yeah, it's just because of slavery. Because after slavery, we had good finances. We had good systems put in place. We had good family structure. And then everything else that came about from there kind of leads into other shit. Oh, you guys understand? I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm listening to you, and the only thing that makes me feel slightly opposed to what you're saying, not, I guess on a factual basis,
yeah,
is the idea that black Africans, like actual Africans that immigrate to America today.
Not non-descendants of slaves.
No, like, well, I mean, I don't know if they were slaves over there.
Well, no, I mean,
You go farther back enough, yeah.
American, like people that come from
Yes.
Africa but not
Black
here from
Africans
Yeah.
that today immigrate to America looking for the American dream, like you said before. Their skin color looks exactly like yours or his or whatever. Statistically speaking, they are going to be more successful
I
than
agree.
white Americans.
They look down on descendants of slaves and how we act.
Well, yeah, because they feel like you could be doing better. And then there's
100%.
also, I guess, the ones that are racist that view you as descendants of subhumans because it's how it was originally. It wasn't skin color, it was class.
Yeah.
But a lot of people seem to fucking forget that.
Yeah. Most cultures is always that caste system,
Yeah.
the class system. Continue. I'm sorry. I just
Well,
wanted-
I mean, when you say black people were taken to America, I mean they were sold to slave traders by other blacks that
Facts.
would go into the
no,
woods
that's
and
a fact.
grab people
That's
and
a
say, "Hey,
fact.
these people aren't human; they're subhumans." The first slave owner in America was black because for the first, I don't know how
That's
long,
facts.
but first few years it was class based. Like it was Irish slaves and black slaves, and then they actually also had a big thing where they would breed them together to create new like mixed babies that were really cheap, and then they found getting black slaves was the cheapest, so they stopped bringing Irish people over, and the mixed babies and the Irish slaves started to become rarer. But yeah,
Yeah. Nah, I'm with you there to a certain
They-
extent because like especially now, like I feel like people that immigrate from immigrate from other countries and come to America, they come to America with the American dream.
yeah,
Whereas a lot of the descendants of slaves never had the American dream. They more so, or let me not even say that. It's not that they didn't have the American dream as in hope for something better, building a life, that type of thing. But it's more so making do without dealing with trauma. Like if you come from a place where you aren't a descendant of slavery, you haven't dealt with the same conditioning, you don't have the same history, the same understanding, the same generational trauma that gets passed on. And that is the key. That's why you got a lot of people like I got a friend who's Ghanaian, right? So his family came from Ghana, and his dad, I forget exactly what his dad does, but he has a good job. And I don't know what his mom does. I believe she has a job or
Still listen, I'm gonna go
decent
charge
job.
my phone.
You good? I believe she has a good job, but what it comes down to is the fact that they come from a different perspective. When I got a wireless charger right there, you can sit it on a desk. Yeah, you can just sit it on top of the. See that little thing right there. But they come at it from a different perspective, where they come from Africa and they have their own perspectives on right, wrong, success, people who have a lack of success, but they don't necessarily understand the shit that has been passed on generationally. Like the fact that a lot of the black women that are descendants of slaves interact with their men the way they do comes from slavery. It's I forget what it was. I think it's called the Willie Lynch letter or something like that. But there was a point in it where they broke down within breeding slaves. They wanted to demasculate the men and have the woman rely primarily on the slave master, have the woman lead the family, and have the men be physically able and less intelligent. And all these things were put in place. So I honestly hold no fault against a person who comes from Africa and looks at the African Americans and looks down on them based on how they act and how they move, because they're coming from the quote unquote motherland, right? They're coming from a place where their culture, for the most part, has remained intact to a certain extent, where they understand different dynamics. They have a different type of success, maybe not monetarily, but within the family dynamic. Whereas over here, we find all these different options that we have for monetary gain, but the family dynamic has been on the decline for the longest. So
I feel like it could be done and over with within like 2 generations.
I agree
I feel
if
like
we
we could fix
if we
everything.
fall in line. But see, and that's where it comes down to. Like, for example, right? A man can't tell a woman how to get better. Women have to tell other women. In the same way, a woman can't tell a man how to get better. Men have to influence other men.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to the Africans that come over here from Africa, they might look down on us as African Americans based on how we interact opposed to how they interact in the motherland and how they come over here and they embrace the American dream. Whereas it's going to take us to fix us. I say the only downside is that when you come over here from Africa, most people just look at you like a black person opposed to an African. In the same way, when you came over here from Italy in 1910, they're looking at you like an Italian opposed to a quote unquote white American. They had gotten their own persecution, but they, in their culture, them and how they interacted with each other, how they built their own community, they got to a certain level of success. Now, moving forward from that, we could get into personal opinion. I've heard a lot of things, not that I could reference at this very moment, that has implied that a lot of different communities focused on certain aspects that they shared in a way to go against the black community. That's a whole nother conversation. That's not something I could speak on in detail or intellectually. So I won't.
I mean, our politics does what you were saying before. It promotes the women leaving the men having physically capable yet stupid children.
Right.
Like, and the policies that are being created right now literally do nothing but further that day after day after day and make it worse. Mm-hmm. Like, you say that and it's like, it's the same thing, but the women are doing it. I'm like, well, no, there are definitely, in a sense, masters out there that are promoting this and doing it more or less subconsciously, but still doing it.
Right.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just really kind of sad to hear, especially coming from you, like saying this. Like, it's people could be doing so much better with a personal choice. Yeah. I feel.
Well,
it's just
with influence also. I don't ever want to undermine how much personal choice goes into it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we all make our choices. You make the choice to go sell drugs instead of mowing lawns, right?
Yeah.
In that same example. But the generations prior are our influences from our beginning. So let's say you grow up in the city and you don't have lawns to mow. And the generations prior only show you drug dealing instead of selling candy and T-shirts. When you're taught to do certain things, you're taught to rely on certain things. Like, I don't know any first-generation drug dealers. Let's put it like that. I don't know any first-generation drug dealers.
That's a very interesting point, honestly.
It's like every drug dealer I know, either their brother, their mother, their father, their grandfather sold drugs. It's like, if I were to go become a big drug dealer, I'm not first generation. If I go back to my hood and I see my cousins selling drugs, I know their father sold drugs.
That's sad that we're still getting people saying I'm a first-generation college student.
Yeah.
And yet I'm hearing this from you. You don't know a single first-generation drug dealer.
That's a fact.
Wow.
It's fucked up. It's like my mother did not graduate high school. My aunt went to college a little bit. I went to college a little bit.
My heart reaches out, man. Fuck.
But I mean, it is all circumstantial. It is what it is. But then when I look at I don't know if my grandmother went to college or not, but I know she was a clerk for decades and then retired. I don't know if my grandfather went to college or not, but I know he was in the military. He was in the Korean War. He ended up driving trucks after the fact, and he retired.
That's good life right there. But
the generation after that, I know for a fact that my uncle was a drug dealer. He was in and out of jail until he died. I know my mom didn't graduate high school, but I know she got involved with a drug dealer until she died. My aunt was the one that got a good job, and she took on the kids until she died. And when we talk about like the long-term success, a lot of it is just based on the prior generations, how we're interacted within it. Like, I look at my family and I can't, at least off the top of my head, like my grandmother, she's one of 12. Every one of them. Like, yo, every
Someone
one of
get
them.
them a Netflix account. Goodness.
Right. I mean, a lot of the 12 is gone now, sadly. It's like my great grandparents, they had 12 kids. It was my grandmother and multiple uncles, aunts, so on and so forth. A lot of them have passed away, but a lot of them birthed drug dealers. It's like I know one section of my family where one of my aunts had 3 kids. All 3 became drug dealers. One is in jail right now, I believe. One is doing better right now, and the other one is a drug addict. It's all circumstantial, but it's the community because they grew up in a place where maybe their dad passed away when they were young. Maybe their dad wasn't in their life. They grow up during the 70s, 80s. They see these things going on. One cousin starts to sell drugs. The other cousin I remember hearing a story where my uncle had gotten locked up, and then my cousin went and stole his drugs when she knew he was like. It's just like this is what they do. This is the life they live. And when you grow up seeing this shit, it just is what it is. My little cousin, like, of course, I'm not going to say no names and no bullshit like that. But my little cousin, I remember one of the times I went to the city maybe a year or two ago. I go and I just get off the train. Yeah, you good, bro? Like, I get off the train. I'm walking to my block. And I'm just turning the corner. And I see my cousin on the corner. I'm like, yo, what's good? And, like, dap him up. We talking real quick. Like, he doing some shit and whatever. And we just having to talk. And then I see a nigga that I know, not friends with. I'm talking about he was an associate, damn near an assistant to my uncle who had passed away at the point. He walk up, try to say something to my cousin. My cousin like, yo, blah, blah, blah. I know what he about to do. My cousin having a conversation with me, tell a fiend to wait. And in my mind, as I'm like, yeah, we dab, I walk off, I'm going to my grandmother's crib, I'm just like, damn. Like, as I'm just walking past, I'm just like, damn. When I left the city, you was a little kid. And now I'm back, you a grown-ass man on the fucking corner with your brother.
Sorry to hear that, man.
It's like, but that's just the reality. His dad was in the game, in and out of jail. His mom was a single mom, probably had boyfriend here, stepdad there, whatever. Probably not as successful because at the end of the day, she had him with a drug dealer. So can we really trust her judgment to that extent? It's like, and then we move forward. Now look at you. You and your older brother are on the corner together. It's generational, and it really comes down to, like, we have to have somebody in the community that grows up with the mother and the father, good positive influences, successful, who is righteous enough to group up as many of his fellow kind as he can to help the community. Like, my
doesn't even
overall
have to be
goal.
all that. You just need that last part, honestly. Like, you can make a personal choice regardless of your upbringing. Like, somebody watches our podcast. Like, I grew up in that single family home. I'm on the corner right now. I'm watching this, and I'm thinking, I can do better. And then all they gotta do is walk off it. Go. I mean, I guess it's not that simple, but like,
Yeah.
I got my job. I made I walked into a place that taught blacksmithing, and I said, I want to work here. I want to learn, and I want to work here. You don't have to pay me, but I will do work for you in return for information. He said, I can't take people right now, but you know what? Here's some numbers. You call these people and see what's going on.
Right.
I made 3 phone calls, and one of them, the place I'm working now, dude calls me back within 20 minutes, and he goes like, hey, who are you? And I'm like, well, I mean, as I explained in my message, like, name's Aaron. I'm looking for work and looking for knowledge. Right. And he said, here's a number. Call my son. He'll get you a job. Right. Because if you say that I sent you, he knows already to just, like, you sound like a good guy.
Send you through the line.
And I made another phone call. He called me back in an hour. He said, can you come in Thursday at 11? I went in Thursday at 11. I was working by 12. Right. And there you go. It was a handshake deal. The paperwork literally was the next week is when I did paperwork. I still got my check. I still got paid. I got money, and I'm getting knowledge. And it's just, like, I get it's not as easy once you're in the lifestyle because some people tend to be violent or whatnot. Like, I mean, I only have an outsider's perspective of it. I never was in it. But there's options. There really are.
I agree.
It
It's
might not
it's
seem
knowing
that
your
way.
options though. No, there are always options. I agree with you
Yeah.
there, but it's being knowledgeable of your options.
Exactly, but
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying is all it takes is someone to just get that idea of I need to do better, and then to do it. It doesn't matter how you were raised or where you are right now. You can always change to be better and do better. I've seen it time and time again. I met racists in the army that started bleeding next to a man of a race they hated, and they would cry and hug that man,
Right.
and they were brothers now, and that person was changed forever off the personal
Right.
decisions they made. Like, I've seen it time and time again. I saw a man that decided to raise his children different because he felt it was just full of hate otherwise. Like, these personal decisions, it starts with the individual. We can't be waiting for other people to do it for us anymore. And I say we as if I'm part of the community because, honestly, I'm human too.
I mean, yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's like at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We have different experiences and we have different cultures, but we all bleed red. We all got hearts. We all got lungs. We all got eyes and ears, regardless if they work, unless we got some type of defect. And even then,
You're still human.
you're still
You
a
got that
fucking
DNA.
human. It's like we all, and I get mad when people say, yeah, but we're just different. It's like, yes, we're all different, but we're all the same. Like, at the end of the day, regardless of how we discuss whatever we're discussing, we're all different, but we're all the same. We're always the same. We always share certain similarities, and it's just influence. That's really all it is. And there's so many ways we could dig into it, but it really comes down to influence.
Honestly, I want to pick at something just a little bit ago that you said that just came to mind. You said we can't have a man telling a woman how to act. A woman's got to tell a woman how to act. We can't have a woman telling a man how to act. A man's got to tell a man how to act. And to an extent, I get that. But, like, you could also say that about, like, a white person can't tell a black person how to act. Like, a black person has to do it or whatnot. And honestly, I completely disagree with that. Like, I do.
I wouldn't associate it to that level.
Okay. But
I meant more specifically within gender, but
Okay.
Continue though.
I mean, there's a difference between men and women.
Right.
Is the only like argument I can see having at least some salt to it. Like every other one, I mean, nowhere near as close to that one. That's the argument that would be the strongest, but it's still not a reason to start treating people differently. But like I've been told, you don't know what you're talking about because you're white.
Yeah.
And honestly, my response has always been like, I don't know how to fly a helicopter. I haven't taken a course in it. I'm not licensed in it. But if I see a helicopter stuck in a tree, I can point up and say, that's fucked up. That's not how that's supposed to work.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still a human. I still got the same brain. Like,
Right.
it's pink and gooey. It just turns gray if you put a bullet through it.
Right.
But,
Yeah. No, honestly, and I'm with you there.
yeah.
Like I feel like, all right. So to close this out, right?
Yeah, let's do that.
I
need to go.
I do feel like
See you, lady.
at the end of the day, right? And we touched on two main topics, like and like I said, I'm gonna split this in two, where we start off talking about the guns and everything, but like in particular with the race aspect, we are all the same, but we all share certain differences. That being said, that's what makes us special as humans. You know, we're all supposed to be different, and we're all supposed to learn from each other and our differences, and we're supposed to do what we can to grow as individuals, and you can only do that from new experiences and from new perspectives.
True.
So if we're able to, one, learn more, be open to learning more, be more curious and less judgmental, love more. Of course, love more, but I feel like it's more so about being able to look at history without trauma. I feel like the trauma is what makes people so quick to make people so quick to make decisions out of ignorance. You might hear something, feel a way, make an ignorant decision. I think we need to do more research. We need to have more discussions. We need to grow more as individuals, and we could become better. And that's really it. And then, like, to specify in the black community, we need to. It's a whole lot of shit we need to work on as far as the black community. We need to get back into trades, get back into art, understand that selling drugs and playing sports ain't all there is, or the only way to be successful, or the best way to be successful. And over time, we can do better. But that's where I'll end it off real quick. Yeah, that's where I ended up. So one more time, your Twitch. Say it one more time.
Twitch.tv/The Deathless. One word, no spaces, none of that.
Right,
So just
right.
The Deathless. The picture is a little vampire cat. It's cute. I love it.
Right,
And
right.
I play stupid games that, I mean, they're fun to watch in my opinion, but I yell a lot when I'm playing Trackmania. That's the only time I yell is Trackmania. So if you want to see me yelling, do it.
Right.
You can catch me on Mr. Take Your Bitch. It's a / hide your bitch.
Right.
Oh my.
So like I
You
said,
catch me on
Oh,
nothing.
my.
I'm proud dad. I'm chilling. That's all I am.
Hell yeah, man.
Hell
Hell
yeah.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's all I am, man.
We gonna be
Right.
at the range. That's where you can
Oh,
find
yeah, hell
us.
yeah, yo,
We gonna be at the
yo, we gonna
range.
be at
I just
that
need to
range.
find ammo.
Oh, that's the thing. You get the gun, but the ammo is like,
Bruh.
I heard a lot of niggas say that. Oh, you got the fuel for the jet. We out. Like,
facts. Well, like I said,
These are almost up to $1 a piece.
really,
sheesh.
I'm talking this right here,
So a clip is-
an expensive, nice round, right? Like hollow point, nice serrations on the end. This should be high end, like 10 to 20 cents a shot, which is a lot for 9mm, right? Like my rifle before COVID was about 20, 25 cents a shot. That's every 4 shots you just spent $1. And that, I mean, I always thought, I was like, oh, that's expensive. I mean, they got the 19 cents, but it's crappy Russian stuff. It might blow up my gun, but I mean, now it's like $1.10 per bullet for the cheap range ammo that doesn't even do anything special. Like, it's not even good for home defense because it punches a nice small hole through a person, doesn't expand, doesn't do a lot of damage unless you like right on top of them. But
good shit.
this shit's expensive. And I got a little bit. I got a stockpile of this stuff, but like my pistol ammo for the range, I don't got a stockpile of shit for my rifle other than armor piercing rounds. So I ain't got shit left for the range. I already wasted all that. So if we gonna have to find something if you want to shoot us.
Let me know where to look.
Susan.
I'll put money
We
up
definitely
first,
gonna
man.
have to do that.
But yeah.
At the range.
All right.
But
And hey, if anybody ever reaches out to you, gives you an email saying I want to learn about guns, you forward
I
that to
got
me
you.
in a
I
heartbeat.
already got you,
please.
bro. Ain't no
I don't
worries
care
on
where
that.
they live. I don't care if they a felon. I don't give a fuck. As long as they ain't gonna use it to go and hurt people, they want it for self-defense. Fine, I'll help them.
We good.
I don't mind.
All right, so remember that. So peep the Twitch. Hit me up if you want some gun lessons. You already know what it is. It's the big cap. No
forgetting there's a
bullshit. Deuces.
We out here.